gendut tali kecapi, kenyang perut senang hati. Hawa dingin menghambat diri, terasa selesa duduk di kerusi. Hadirin dan hadirat sekalian, acara petang akan diteruskan dengan satu sesi perkongsian oleh Tuan Azrul Izham Hamzah, Timbalan Pengarah Pusat Kelestarian Kepimpinan. Izinkan saya untuk memperkenalkan beliau dengan lebih rapat lagi. Beliau mendapat pendidikan di Maktab Tentera Diraja, memperolehi, ini sama dengan saya, Bachelor of Science in IT, Teknologi Maklumat di UiTM dan MSc, Masters of Science in National Security and Public Safety, University of New Haven, USA. Tuan Azrul merupakan mantan timbalan pengarah di Unit Supreme iaitu Special Unit for High Potential and Subject Matter Expert di Jabatan Perkhidmatan Awam JPA, pernah berkhidmat di Kementerian Dalam Negeri, Jabatan Imigresen Malaysia sebelum bertugas di AKAP sebagai timbalan pengarah Pusat Kelestarian Kepimpinan. Bidang pengkhususan beliau ialah pengurusan bakat untuk pegawai pertengahan dalam perkhidmatan awam, pengurusan analisis risiko dan juga business process re-engineering. Tanpa melengahkan masa, Majlis Kolokium AKAP 2022 at Meliora dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan Tuan Azrul Izham Hamzah untuk menyampaikan perkongsian beliau.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat tengah hari. Gendang gendut tali kecapi berdiri di sini harap didengari. Pantun dekerat Prof Yas, boleh jawab? Okay, thank you tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Thank you Prof Yas. Prof Yas adalah my predecessor. So basically she have put high benchmark di CLS AKAP. So saya basically baru masuk 1 bulan 1 minggu di AKAP. So dia punya tone tu dia kena susah sikit lah. Dia kena catch up dengan Prof Yas punya tempo tu. So saya tak boleh berjalan, saya naik-naik kena menari. Sebab itulah kata minta, okay tak apalah, kita nak dapatkan mood sikit petang tadi, kita intro sikit dengan lagu Top Gun. But before we start, ground rule, saya nak minta tolong sebab esok saya akan jadi you all punya ketua panel. Saja nak psycho sikit kan. Sebelum saya nilai you all, saya minta tolong, please ada seorang timekeeper. Please keep my time intact. Ini belum mula lagi. Saya ada 45 minit. Pada minit ke-40, please ring one bell. Minit ke-45, ring two bell. So I know my signal bila saya nak stop. Sebab esok saya akan buat benda yang sama dengan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Bila loceng pada minit ke-5 berbunyi, warning. Minit ke-7, apa you cakap lepas tu tidak dikira. Sorry lah, bukan nak psycho you all. Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, again, welcome rakan-rakan daripada pelbagai universiti, pelbagai background ke Kolokium AKAP. And thanks to my brother, Pak Din, for having this colloquium. And I'm having a very difficult task sekarang sebab slot ni adalah sepatutnya slot ketua pengarah JPT. Unfortunately he cannot be here because of ada tugasan yang lebih penting. So dia sampaikan salamnya. InsyaAllah ada acara lain kita jumpa lagi dengan KP. Don't worry. On the brighter side, lega korang KP tak main. Kan? Tapi tak boleh gelak, benda recorded. Okay, on that note, macam Prof yang cakap, betul, I was previously from JPA, heading a small unit called Special Unit for High Potential and Subject Matter Expert. Di situlah kita melihat talent management di peringkat pertengahan dalam perkhidmatan awam. So maksud dia pertengahan daripada grade 41 sampai 54 je. Jusa tak tengok sebab patutnya dah sampai Jusa dia pandailah buat kerja dia. Dah pandailah, they are in the driver's seat. So they should lead. They have the wisdom, they have the knowledge, they have the competency. They are the one who chart. Tapi sebelum mereka jadi Jusa, tanggungjawab kami untuk kenal pasti, untuk bangunkan pegawai-pegawai kita yang muda ni. Because they are the future, they are the future KP, they are future TKP, they are the future KSU. So dalam hal ni, basically skop pembentangan saya pada petang ini, tak ada maksud pembentangan, perkongsian saya petang ini ada 4 skop, which is I will give you a little bit background. Skop 1, skop 2 a little bit academic, and it's dry, warning, boring, or something that you already know with regards to talent management dan juga succession planning. So nombor 3 dan 4 tu kita akan terus lihat how we do that in public service. Apa dia punya keliling yang ada, apakah struktur yang ada dekat JPA lah sebelum ni. Okay, so we will share with you so that probably kita boleh lihat sama ada are we doing the same thing. Adakah kita tersasar daripada landasan pembangunan bakat? Adakah apa yang kita buat dalam pengurusan bakat di peringkat UA itu inline dengan apa yang perkhidmatan awam ada? Sebab suka tak suka, Universiti Awam or IPTA still govern bawah kerajaan. So the structure, the ni semua adalah lebih kurang lah. And lastly, we'll share with you also dari segi implementation ni lah, dari segi kerangka apa kata perusahaan bakat. Okay, literature review. So few quotes kat sini, you can read yourself. Benda ni, slide ni saya akan share kemudian. But eventually, I won't bore you with this. Bila kita tengok pasal pembangunan bakat, okay, you know Colin Powell kan? Tak tahu, boleh Google. Lecturer lagi terror. One of the greatest talents of all talent is to recognize and to develop talent of others. A good leaders bukan saja lead, they develop and build more leaders. Okay, dalam hal ni, in our case, you dah jadi pengarah, you dah jadi dekan, you jadi TNC, or whatever post you pegang, ataupun dekat dalam konteks perkhidmatan awam, you pegang KPP, ketua penolong pengarah, you ada supervisor of 2 orang, 3 orang pengarah, penolong pengarah. It's your responsibility to develop the next ketua penolong pengarah. Why? Bila you naik atas, you jadi timbalan pengarah, you jadi pengarah, kalau boleh, anak buah you tu, dia pergi pindah tempat lain, orang akan tanya, Azrul, si Esah ni anak buah you Kenapa? Baguslah dia. Kerja rajin, boleh supervise, boleh manage, boleh serba-serbi lah. Boleh bungkus hadiah. Contoh tak semua cakap dia, seperempuannya bungkus hadiah, seperempuannya bungkus hadiah. Ingat lelaki tak pandai bungkus hadiah. So, itulah maksud dia. I mean, as you develop talent, people, we create more leaders, we create more good people. And sebab apa? Bila kita grow up, nanti climb the career ladders, dekat sini kita akan lihat yang mana, okay, bila kita tengok, dia ada 5 kat sini, saya fokus yang nombor 1 tu je. World Bank dalam dia punya report 2019 kata rising expectation and increased demand from citizen for merit-based recruitment, decentralization and the usage of competency framework to induct the best talent. Inline tak daripada speaker nombor 1, speaker nombor 2, speaker nombor 3 sebut. Azrul speaker nombor 4. We are echoing the same thing. Competency based talent. Bila kita sebut kompetensi, apa dia? Apakah yang diperlukan, set knowledge, pengetahuan or whatever yang diperlukan untuk kita melaksanakan satu-satu tugas di atas jawatan yang kita isi tersebut. What make us a good officer? What make us a good pensyarah? What make us a good pengarah? Pengarah pusat. HR director. What make us a good leader? Nanti saya akan huraikan lebih lanjut with regards to the competency. And also, kita fokus nombor 4 kat situ. Yasmin Bano, University of Michigan. In most cases, succession planning only apply to top level management and neglects to address the leadership gap. Ada kan? Speaker nombor 3, speaker nombor 1 sebut benda sama. Kita develop, kita nilai orang, lepas tu kita hukum orang. Awak punya penilaian teruk lah. So thanks, nice knowing you, thank you, goodbye. Yang penilaian bagus, kita naikkan dia. Naik pangkat, naik grade, kan? Daripada senior prof, daripada senior lecturer jadi associate prof, appreciate prof jadi prof. Orang yang memang tidak begitu menyelah, ada kompetensi gap dia yang kurang, kita biarkan dia hanyut di lautan sepi. Dah lah hanyut, sepi pula tu. So biar dia terdampar. Kalau dia terdampar kat pantai tak apa. Kalau terus hanyut di lautan dalam, kena makan ikan Jaws. Why? It's important for us with that gap, kita develop orang tu. They can be good leaders also. You never know. Maybe they are late bloomer. Masa 48, sebabkan bukan dia punya kerja yang dia minat, kan? Belajar tinggi-tinggi, pergi buat information technology, kena buat kewangan. Duduk dekat pejabat pendaftar buat. Sebab apa? Pada ketika itu, kerja yang dia kosong cuma ada N41 buat kewangan. So dia apply, dapat kerja dekat universiti sanak saudara. And those kind of things. I mean, sometimes the talent or the competency develop late. So we have to give them a chance. We have to develop them. Nanti saya akan sentuh sedikit berkenaan the talent development life cycle. Okay? So dalam hal ni juga government through RMK 10 ada sebut. RMK 10 sebut apa? Mempersiapkan bakat muda. Kita ni tak berapa muda dah. Dia dah anjak sikit daripada muda. Bukan parti muda dia. Bukan kempen. Kita remain bipartisan. Mempersiapkan bakat muda, the young talents. So they are the future leaders. Melalui laluan kerjaya fast track, sebab dulu is always seniority. Kan? Kau orang muda diam. Duduk situ diam-diam. Jemputan kau naik. Duduk dia dekat 44, 11 tahun. Tengok senior-senior naik sampai terlepas pandang. Tahun ke-15 baru dapat naik 48. Dan sebab apa? Again macam Prof Asma, Datuk Asma ada sebut pagi tadi, sebab JPA design macam tu. Kan? Piramid macam tu. So atas tu ada 2 je kosong. So yang ada 44 ni ada 4 orang. So kalau kita buat secara merit base, dia boleh berlari laju lah. That's why laluan kerjaya fast track tadi. And also dalam NK 11 pun dia echo lagi. Tingkatkan bakat terbaik dalam berpengalaman sektor awam. Echo lagi sekali dalam RMK 12 yang baru. Tapi dia punya tone dia berbeza. Kan? Ini inline balik dengan second speaker sebut. Buat transformational. And Dr. Asma pun ada sebut juga, transformational shift. So, public sector kita dah beralih daripada the traditional way of doing business kepada service delivery yang berbentuk transformational. Kalau dulu kata pergi Jabatan Immigration Malaysia, buat pasport kena ambil cuti 1 hari. Daripada pagi sampai petang, pukul 5 tak siap lagi. Petang esok pula ambil pasport. But now, you apply pasport online, datang kat sana dah submit gambar apa semua, pergi kat sana, dalam 2 jam tunggu, pukul 1 dah boleh balik dah. At least half day lah lagi daripada pejabat. Kan? Things are moving towards digitalization and technology based. Kan? Dulu nak pergi parking, kan? Pergi dekat MPPJ, dekat mana-mana lah. Pergi PJ, katalah kita makan dekat SS2 kan. Bukan durian SS2. Maybe let's say lah kita makan dekat, pergi Zainul lah. Zainul nasi kandar kan kat bawah tu. Dekat food court tu, kat bawah tu parking susah. Adalah parking. Kita parking kat situ, kalau tak kita nak cari 7-Eleven tu dia hujung blok sana tu, nak beli kupon parking. Kupon parking 60 sen je. Tapi you have to jalan jauh berpeluh-peluh berlengah, datang balik. By the time you nak datang balik, you dah kena saman. But now, through your phone, ada park and pay lah, apa benda semua, so you just duduk dalam kereta sekejap, klik. Tak sampai 30 saat dah. Kan? Things are move, transform from the traditional way of doing business towards digitalization. Macam Prof Yas sebut tadi kan, masa kita intro tadi. Yes, betul. Things are moving towards digitalization. Tapi yang digitalization ataupun teknologi adalah enabler. Sebab itulah pengurusan bakat, talent management penting to be the human enabler. Orang yang menggerakkan teknologi tersebut. So, nampak kan kepentingan dia? Dah kata dah skop nombor 1 ni pendek je sebab di digital literature review kan. Skop nombor 2, bila kita cerita pasal peranan dalam pengurusan bakat ni. Okay, nombor 1 what we need. Pagi tadi Prof. Asma ada sebut ada 8. 8 tu is a total talent management, daripada recruitment, kan, daripada orang datang interview nak minta kerja sampailah orang tu pencen. But dalam konteks saya petang ni, saya nak berkongsi dengan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, kita fokus 4 ni aja. Sebab apa? Ini adalah dari segi talent management to find best talent, pengurusan bakat terbaik yang akan dijadikan talent pool, atau Pak Din sebut pagi tadi kolam apa? Kolam bakat. Ada some school of thought sebut kolam bakat. Ada some school of thought sebut kelompok bakat. So benda samalah. Dalam bahasa Inggeris kita sebut talent pool. So when we talk about talent pool, these are the best people in the organisation. Why? Kita perlukan dia orang ni. Nombor 1, identify calon-calon yang terbaik untuk bakal jadi the next leader. Nombor 2, these people are the people yang akan run the organisation, the best officer in the organisation yang akan membawa organisation tersebut ke satu anjakan paradigm yang lebih bagus. Maksudnya kalau dulu, kalau dulu the old way of doing things, you have to queue up in the banks. Nowadays pergi Kfry pun pakai apps. Kan, you duduk kat Kfry, you download the apps, you dapat queue number, you boleh merayau. Kalau tak dulu you termongok depan Kfry tu takut nombor terlepas. Dia dah bagi that benda tu buzzer tu berbunyi bergoyang poket je kan. Oh okay, dah sampai turn. But then sekarang tak perlu pun. Kalau tak you tunggu kat situ macam orang gila. Dekat 45 minit, kalau you pergi Uniqlo kat sebelah tu dah dapat 3 lai baju. Kan? So teknologi drive towards that. So dari sudut ni, bila kita sebut pengurusan bakat, number 1, identify them. Number 2, we develop them. So janganlah biarkan dia orang hanyut di lautan sepi tadi kan. And number 3, we recognize. Kat sini bila sebut recognize, it's about acknowledgement, it's about appreciation. Kan kita tahu pegawai kita bagus. Sometimes tak perlu pun nak bagi APC tiap-tiap tahun. Kawan lain menyampah pula balik-balik Azrul APC. Macam bagus sangat Azrul tu. Baik dengan pengarah boleh lah. Orang cakap lah. Tapi bukan Azrul ni tak mendapat APC pun. Azrul lain APC kan. Azrul ni dia nakal sikit sebab dia tak dapat pun APC. And lastly, to record the whatever keputusan-keputusan yang ada tersebut so that you can refer in the future. Bukan sekadar untuk rekod simpan dekat dalam database yang biar bergabuk, but you can also look at the history. Katalah in 10 years down the line, these people are at mid level and they are the future timbalan pengarah. You nak evaluate. Oh, kawan ni ada history lah. So you know the performance. Dia punya performance increase every time dia naik pangkat. Makin lama makin bagus. Kompetensi makin lama meningkat. Sebab you dah buat semua-semua ni kan. So daripada sebut how do we manage it. So basically inilah develop them, access them, identify them and monitor. Okay. Kat sini saya akan cerita panjang sikit sebab saya akan kupas satu-satu. Okay, ready? Penat lagi kan? Boring kat atas. Okay, when we talk about developing talent, okay? Always kita refer balik kepada job description. Macam mana kita buat job description? Dalam tu kita ada kompetensi yang kita dah kenal pasti kan? Maksud dia kita nak ada TNC HEPA. Apa kompetensi dia perlukan? Nak ada international. Dia kena ada good PR sebab dia akan HEPA tak? HEPA ialah kan, ada antarabangsa. International relation, dia kena ada. Apa lagi? Communication skill. Kebajikan pelajar. Boleh tulis email dalam bahasa Inggeris. Kan? Language proficiency. Language pun bukan sebarang language. Bukan dia language kata I want to drink water coke. Kan? English macam tu, English kampung kita faham. But it's how you write an effective communication. Betul? So those are the skill set yang kita perlukan So kita tengok daripada competency generic. Competency generic is about the leadership, the soft skill part, kan? Dia ada leadership capability, dia ada communication skill, dia ada persuasion skill, dia ada empathy. Kan you all dah tengok kan ACAP punya tu 12 kompetensi. Saya tak boleh nak compare dengan PTD-nya sebab I'm a PTD officer, kami ada 29 kompetensi. Oh tu dia. Tu dia, terror sangat PTD ni. Macam bagus je. Jack of all trade Pak Mastur Nan. 29. Sebab apa? Nanti saya cerita. Sebab PTD ada 28 bidang. Nanti kita cerita satu. And kita nak tengok juga what are the trends. Kan? Mega trends semasa orang cerita IR 4.0, IR 4.0. Perlu ke IR 4.0 kalau dah 85% of the industry yang ada sekarang ni semua SME? Mampu ke mereka nak buka machinery dekat, invest on 20 million punya machinery dekat kilang-kilang doang? Makcik Kiah dekat Bantingnya industri kerepek perlu ke nak IR 4.0? So that is one of the things that we have to assess. We have to develop, we have to make our people dan organisation faham. Sebab tu bila kita buat jadi, kita tengok kompetensi dia based on these 4 mega trend. So then ini Miss Adilah tadi sebut, it's time for you to upskill or reskill. Learn, relearn, unlearn. Kita perlu belajar tak? Mula dah, aku dah merayau dah ni. Tengok sampai tidur. Siapa yang kena? Kan? When we talk about talent development, we must consider all this. Kan? Ada lagi. It's more. Tapi these are the 4 main element yang perlu dilihat secara terperinci dan juga secara I would say dengan baiklah. So that bila kita pasti nak develop seseorang pegawai untuk mengisi sesuatu pos, satu jawatan dalam organisasi, these are the aspect that you need. So dalam konteks ni, dekat ACAP, you tahu kan ACAP ada 3 center kan? Center Pak Din, Center Prof Azila, Center Azrul. Okay, selfie, profiling. Pak Din do all the profiling, dia tengok dan semua apa semua. Prof Azila dia develop these people from whatever skill set yang dia ada. And my center, we look into the mega trend. What ada industri nak kat luar ke apa benda semua. What ada current issue. So that mungkinlah kita boleh sama-sama buat. I help you, you help me lah. Kan, macam mana kita nak buat, orang kata, orang dah tahu, contohnya lah, Kementerian Sumber Manusia dah keluarkan Critical Occupational List. Job-job yang diperlukan for the next 5 years sampai 2035. So, are we preparing our students untuk memenuhi kerja-kerja tu, senarai pekerjaan tu? And based on apa yang Dr. Asma sebutkan pagi tadi, kan, the 10 skill of the future yang sebutkan tadi, yang soft skill yang dah jadi needed skill tadi tu, where can we embed? So sebagai seorang yang bertanggungjawab untuk groom orang, so we have to be one step further daripada diorang, kan? So seterusnya bila sebut penilaian, there comes. Macam mana kita nak tahu orang ni bagus tak bagus? Of course ada penilaian. Penilaian macam mana? Penilaian kompetensi. Bila kita sebut tak apa puan, ambil gambar nanti kita bagi je slide ni. Bukannya rahsia kerajaan. Benda ni ilmu kita kena kongsi. Kalau kita kongsi, you all ambil, you all apply, I dapat pahala. Alhamdulillah. Okay, we have penilaian bakat, kan? Assessment. Assessment kita tengok kompetensi. Saya cerita dalam konteks perkhidmatan awam, kompetensi adalah LMPT kita lah. Kan? Penilaian kompetensi itu LMPT kita yang semasa sekarang. PPP, pegawai penilai pertama nilai kita macam mana? Pegawai penilai kedua nilai kita macam mana? Itu sama markah kita. Bila sebut potensi, ini yang kita isi LMPT khas. Kan? Biasa kan tengok LMPT khas. LMPT khas maksud dia kita nak naik 48, nak naik 52, kita dapat satu borang warna hijau. Tak tahu lah sekarang ni borang warna apa, sekarang semua dah digital lah. Kan? So, dia nilai. Sama ada A ke, A plus ke, B plus ke, adalah pemarkahan dia macam tu kan. And next, ujian psikometrik. Ada kan kita buat? Welcome my brother Nazrul. Azrul, welcome Nazrul. a long good friend from Talent Corp. Itulah ujian psikometrik dan juga ujian penilaian yang kita rasa sesuai. Benda ni is not a carving stone, bukannya batu bersurat yang terpahat tak boleh diubah. Tapi these are the sum of tools ataupun metodologi yang kita boleh gunakan untuk menilai seseorang. And last but not least, bila kata situ, kita juga ada validate and verify, VNV. VNV ni biasanya melalui temu duga lah, interview session. Why kita perlukan 1, 2, 3 sebelum pergi 4? Untuk mengelakkan nombor 1, favoritism. Macam mana Tok Jo tu boleh naik jadi TP kat situ Kerja pun tak berapa, ni pun tak, ni Jo lain lah. Jo bukan nama sebenar kat jabatan lain. So bila kita ada this evidence based assessment kompetensi, kita tahu. Macam saya sebut tadi, penilaian kompetensi adalah your performance appraisal upon LMPT, which assess your current performance. Potensi adalah assessing your leadership punya assessment, whether you ready or not. Dalam government kita kata nak naik pangkat, bukan setakat naik pangkat. You are assuming responsibility, betul? Kan daripada seorang penolong parah, pergi ketua penolong pengarah, ketua penolong parah, timbalan pengarah, pergi pengarah, pergi TKP pergi KP. Kalau KP ada rezeki jadi TKSU jadi KSU jadi KSN. Kan? Panjat dek tangga. In private sector pun sama, kan? You start with executive, senior executive, assistant manager, and goes climb up. Prior to join PTD, I was also from private sector. I was an engineer by profession. Tak macam mana tak jadi PTD, tak tahulah. Don't ask. And quite a diverse background. Prof Yas sebutkan tadi, Azrul belajar IT, kerja engineer, lepas tu masuk PTD, ambil master national security. Itu dia criminal justice nya bidang. And now doing talent management, telling you people this is how to do it. Just because I'm the timbalan pengarah, you kena dengar lah. But then, this is about sharing, because I undergo this. Previously, I was also for MOHR. And MOHR, kita buat labor economics. Kita tengok on the employability and whatnot. That's where Nazrul and me will work together before. And Nazrul? And walaupun kami sekolah rival, di MCKK kita RMC, tapi macam merah, tak hijau. Tapi kita baik lah. Kita geng rivalry lain lah. Healthy rivalry. So, that's it So, bila towards the end, kita nak buat validate and verify, kita boleh eliminate favoritism ataupun point system. Faham point system? Point system contohnya, Rafizi, ada kosong ni. I nak appoint you lah. Jadi the next pendaftar, kau tim Boleh macam tu. Universiti saudara mara kan macam tu, contoh. Tu headhunting, okay, tu different. Kalau headhunting boleh lah. Tak masuk dia dalam sekarang ni, when you have this evidence-based competency, you have this scientific-based assessment, bila kita bawa ke peringkat akhir, waktu interview, mudah untuk orang buat keputusan. Because you have the data. LMPT dia macam ni, penilaian potensi dia pun 90%, psikometrik pun cakap, kawan ni memang fit to be a leader lah at whatever peringkat. So bila panel nak buat interview, tidaklah kita bawa 40 nama untuk jawatan kuasa ataupun lembaga naik pangkat nak pening-pening. So at least kita bawa 4 atau 3 nama yang memang telah melalui rigorous tapisan dan juga penilaian tadi. So you got what it means Okay. So seterusnya, bila kita sebut pasal lepas penilaian tu, what's next? So adakah kita akan biarkan mereka ni macam tadi hanyut, ataupun yang bagus kita tahu dia high potential. And bila sebut high potential, dia ada 2 track. Satu leadership track, satu lagi technical track. Betul? Kalau dalam swasta kita tahu technical track, dia ada future CTO. Dia ada future head of engineering department. Kalau you suruh dia buat kerja CEO, buat finance, memang gagal. Dia tak boleh. But they are also someone who are generalist. Background engineer, jadi CEO of an accounting firm. Adakah macam tu kan Mr. Simon? Ada. I know a friend. An accountant running a cyber security company. Macam mana? I mean, but he have that generic competency to be on that leadership role. Betul kan? So that is why kita tengok dia, the kompetensi yang dia ada tadi tu, macam kita tengok yang nombor 1 tadi kan, JD dia apa? Ada kompetensi. Adakah Azrul memenuhi kompetensi? So, selepas melalui penilaian tadi. So bila dah ada melalui penilaian tadi, terus kita boleh kenal pasti sama ada orang ni high potential ataupun mereka tak sebut produk gagal lah, mereka yang perlu intervention. So bila kita perlukan intervention kat sini, this is when we patch the gap. Kan? Dr. Asma ada juga sebut pagi tadi kan pasal competency gap. Inilah dia competency gap. Yang mana efek yang bagus sekalipun yang the leadership role tadi, katalah kita nilai daripada apa yang kita nilai dia dapat band 4. Perfect band is band 5 contohnya. It's not perfect. Masih ada gap kat situ. So mungkin dia punya assessment tadi daripada A- kita boleh jadikan dia A dengan menghantar dia ke kursus-kursus, contohnya pergi Chevening, pergi JICA, kan, pergi Coty punya program ke for that leadership role, pergi Cambridge ke, Harvard Business School, kan, kursus-kursus yang hebat-hebat untuk orang yang hebat. Tapi takkanlah kita nak hantar orang yang perlukan intervensi ke Harvard pula. Not worth the ROI. Mungkin kita boleh hantar lokal lah dulu kan. Once dia dah capai tahap high potential tadi, okey lah kita bawa dia pula pergi Harvard. Harvard di Jerai ke kan? Harvard Cawangan Jerai. Or Oxford Cawangan Segambut. Kan? Those kind of things. So, nampak tak tadi flow? Daripada kita bangunkan orang, kita nilai orang, kita kenal pasti orang. Bila dah kenal pasti, you boleh tahu best talent dengan yang average. Nanti saya akan sharekan towards the end nanti our how we do it in JPA dulu. And dari segi observation pula, nombor 1 kita terus boleh develop talent pool. And in any literature review, dia kata 5 to 8% daripada orang dalam satu-satu organisation tersebut adalah the best talent of the organisation. Unfortunately, jawatan ketua pengarah 1 je. Tapi kita tak boleh nak groom seorang semata-mata nak isi yang tu. Buatnya kawan tu sakit ke, kena gout ke, kena kan jalan mutak lagat kan, macam ni nak jadi KP. So we have to find someone who fits the bill. So kita kenal pasti maybe ada 5-6 orang. So bila 5-6 orang ni kita bawa ke lembaga kenaikan pangkat apa semua tadi, mudah dia nak buat kerja. We have all the evidence tadi. This guy comply dengan syarat-syarat tu. This guy mempunyai markah prestasi kompetensi, markah penilaian potensi yang level A+. Sesuailah dia untuk dijadikan the next KP. Contoh. Kan? Boleh buat profiling. Terus. So sometimes bila kita kata dia bukan tak sesuai jadi ketua pengarah, mungkin dia sesuai jadi TKP dasar. Ada some people memang strategic minded. So dia boleh buat polisi. Ada some people are readily rubber stamping ataupun jenis operationnya orang. Jangan suruh buat dasar. Menggelupur dia. So buat strategic paper tak boleh. Tapi kalau suruh buat management, tip top. Boleh buat finance, dia memang ikut buku punya orang. Yes, no. There's no, dia jenis black and white punya orang. No nonsense punya orang. Kalau buat accounting, cantik. Dan dia jaga head of finance. So, kita profilkan mereka, kita tahu strength dia kat mana, kita tahu weakness dia kat mana. Weakness, kita patch, kita address the gap. The strength, kita promote. Sebab tu yang sebutkan tadi tu, recognition. Kan? So, next. Dah masuk skop 3. Timing tak bunyi lagi kan? Thank you. Bila kita usaha skop 3 ni, apa yang kita akan dapat tuan-tuan dan puan? Apa yang kita akan dapat bila kita laksanakan pengurusan bakat yang baik? First and foremost is about healthy competition. tidak berlaku tikam menikam belakang. Why? We know the competency, kita tahu macam mana kita dinilai, kita tahu apa yang kita dinilai. Supaya towards the end of the day, kita tidak buat kerja, orang kampung saya kata, hitting around the bushes. Kampung saya lain, kampung saya kat Amerika. Lepas tu kita hitting around the bushes. Kan? So, bila kita hitting around the bushes, kita tak tahu what is there in the bushes. Ada ular sawa ke? Ada tupai ke? Kan? So, we don't know what's the end result. So, if we have that structure, the evidence-based punya assessment tadi tu, so you can, sebagai pegawai yang dinilai lah, yang kata HR manager, pegawai yang dinilai kita tahu. So, we have this competitive and also effectivenya succession planning. Kita boleh prepare the leaders of the future. Some people memang, okay, kita tengok keliling kita sebab waktu I did my master, I know my supervisor adalah anak murid kepada co-supervisor. The co-supervisor tu memang, I don't want to further anything, dia kata I'm okay to be a senior lecturer je. Memang dia pilihan dia. So dia tidak akan berebut, dia takkan terlibat dengan kompetitif race tadi, dan juga kita tahu yang mana yang ready, mana yang memang bercita-cita untuk climb the career ladder, mereka inilah the future leaders. It goes back to the HR managers. And dalam konteks ni tuan-tuan dan puan, bila kita tengok HR managers dan juga talent managers officer ataupun managers, talent management managers perlulah datang daripada skop berlainan, daripada dua tim yang berlainan. Orang yang datang daripada skim perkhidmatan ni yang spesifik, dia tahu apakah kompetensi, apakah skill set, apakah kemahiran pengetahuan yang nak dibangunkan. HR manager akan bantu dan facilitate, cari kursus-kursus yang betul, create laluan kerjaya yang sesuai. Kan? Kata tadi kita kan ada 5 calon kan. Jawatan pengarah tu ada 1 je kosong. Yang 4 lagi nak jadi apa? Kan? Mungkin kita boleh create a secondment program dia dekat luar, kan, duduk kat Sunway, kan, duduk dekat KPMG, kat PwC, terus kan nanti duduk dekat Talent Corp for 1 year on secondment basis. This is how we do it. So the continuity of development of people tidak terhenti setakat sebab dia nak dinilai saja. It's a continuous process. Again, Simon sebut tadi, lifelong learning. It relates. Sebab bila kita sebut lifelong learning is from cradle to grave kan. Again, orang kampung saya cakap macam tu. And dia juga akan memperkasakan our staff, our people in the organisation. And of course lah, bila people frust, they will go. When people go, we have to hire. The hiring and firing process is a very expensive exercise. Betul kan Mr. Simon? HR practitioner. Sebab you have to spend your resources nak interview 200 orang semata-mata nak isi 2 post. You mean you punya, bukan, I wouldn't say waste of resources lah. I mean you can channel your resources towards a better things to do. And to retain talent is much more easier. Hantar dia orang pergi training, hantar dia orang pergi secondment dan sebagainya. Okay? So the benefit would be, you climb out, find the right person for the right job. We retain the best talent in the organisation. Tapi kalau orang nak keluar tu, tak apalah, for a better posture, for a better opportunity, they can go. And we have quality people in the organisation. Nobody to be left behind. And you never walk alone. Tahu kan? You never walk alone. And lastly, kita boleh buat that very structured succession planning. Okay? And how? Macam mana? Bila kita tanya macam mana kita nak buat, always this go to our second speaker pagi tadi. Ingat cerita values tadi from Dr. Babs? How they create values in the organisation supaya orang sayang organisation. Orang sayang kerja kat ACAP ni. Best kerja ACAP ni. Sebab apa? Sebab tak ada orang kacau. Duduk jauh kat Negeri Sembilan, jauh daripada KPT. Oops. Oh, KPT ada kat sini. Tenang duduk situ. Buat kerja senang je kan. You have the flexibility, you have the freedom untuk chat whatever you want. Itu contoh. Or probably you have a good boss. Seorang bos yang sentiasa menggalakkan you, yang sentiasa membawa you ke depan. Bukannya bos kata, oh dah buat-buat, tak apalah, ayah dah bawa pergi berjumpa menteri. Asyik dia je dapat kredit kan. Kau bila lagi menteri nak tengok muka kau kan. Those kind of things. So on that note, secara tak langsung, we can create a pengurusan prestasi yang baik. Kan tadi, you know people yang bagus tadi, you boleh nilai dia. Semua orang bagus duduk dalam satu organisasi yang bagus, boleh menyebabkan prestasi yang dalam organisasi itu pun bagus. Kan tak payah susah-susah by mid-year, kelang kabut nak buat midterm review SKT. Alamak, dah capai tak capai belum. Kalau orang semua buat kerja, tak perlu nak midterm review pun. Kan? And on that note, you can also plan the development of leadership. You dah tahu kompetensi. Kadang-kadang kita sebut leadership, tak semestinya kompetensi leadership tu kena buat khusus-khusus leadership aja. Sometimes you kena tengok juga kompetensi apa yang kita nak bangunkan. Kalau empathy, khusus apa? Kalau communication, khusus apa? Kan, dengan siapa? Siapa yang terror pasal talent management? Those kind of things yang kita kenal pasti. So that we can have that plan untuk kita bangunkan orang. And of course lah, talent retention kat situ. And kita dekat perkhidmatan awam kurang sikit part ni. Tapi ada few friends yang scheme engineering kat sini banyak staff pinching. Dia dah bagus-bagus, dekat JKR, MK, bawa dia keluar. Oh bagi higher, double, triple. Dia kata kalau aku tunggu sampai bila tak dapat gaji Jusabi. Asyik duduk sangkut kat 48. Umur bawah 36 dah dapat gaji Jusabi kan. Pergi ya, apa tunggu. But if you have a good talent management, people won't leave. People will love the organisation. And of course lastly, it makes life easier untuk buat pemilihan tempat on who will be the next, whatever next lah. Next ketua penolong pengarah ke, next dekan ke, next TNC ke, next rector ke, I don't know lah, whatever lah. Next pengarah ke, kan? We have all that structured, so it makes life easier to make decision. Kan, you bentangkan dekat lembaga kenaikan pangkat ataupun your board, kata, I am presenting these 4 names untuk mengisi TNC HEPA. Ni, calon A, strong background international relation, pernah buat duduk dalam Simeo Raihat punya sumbangan ke apa benda, ini pernah ikut SOMED-nya meeting ke apa benda, all those kind of things. Kan? Oh, senang kan buat kerja macam tu kan, when you have that evidence, you have that proof yang menyatakan orang ni, inilah kekuatannya, these are the strength, these are the weakness, these are the, orang selalu kata SWOT. SWOT ni apa best? SWOT lah yang canggih-canggih sikit. SWOT is always basic kan. Bila basic, that goes, dengki dah tu. Tarik balik. Okay, 5 more minutes, I know that. So on that note, to institutionalize this, dalam perkhidmatan awam kita ada perkeliling. Perkeliling apa? 3-2006 on succession planning. Okay, quickly goes to this. How we do it? Untuk dapat kompetensi yang baik, kita ada 2 wing. Kompetensi teknikal dan juga fungsian. Kalau nampak kat senarai tepi tu adalah bidang-bidang BTD, and how we do it through education, pendidikan, formal, classroom, through pendedahan, exposure, and through pengalaman. Kita tahu, dah 15 tahun kerja takkanlah. It's something yang you cannot deny, dia punya wisdom, dia punya experience, those kind of things. Pendedahan, hantarlah dia pergi secondment ke, hantarlah dia pergi buat attachment kat mana ke, kan? Those kind of things, benda yang is a lifelong learning. Bukannya setakat masa dia masuk servis dia kena buat tu. Okay? So on this note, saya sebut tadi, fungsian and juga generik. Kalau dalam apa yang kita ada sekarang, saya ambil kira dalam kos perkhidmatan awam, specifically on PTD, everything supported by TLSA. Think, Lead, Speak dan Act. Yang mana didukung oleh ASAT. Ni dalam you all punya 12 framework tadi tu pun ada, which is authentic, adaptive, itu semualah, empathy lah apa benda semua. Okay. And these ada 8 bidang PTD tu. So boleh bayangkan, kita sebut ekonominya skill set tak sama dengan finance. Finance tak sama dengan HR. So sebab tu dah 29 ya. Okay, daripada TLSA, this is how we draw. So it goes daripada understanding towards creating towards wisdom. Kan bila sampai mid level you are able to analyze and evaluate. Bila dah sampai ada driver seat, you are the one who creates program. You are the one who dictates on what to do. Pak, TLSA dan ASAT tadi dikawinkan. Inilah dia. Tak apa, ni saya bagi je nanti. So apa dalam TLSA? Organizational intelligence. Bukan kata orang tak pandai think tu tak pandai think. These are the element of thinking yang ada dalam tu. Okay? These are the communication. And bila kita buat penilaian, we have case study, kita buat creative lab, kita buat effective presentation, intellectual discourse dan role playing. Third party assessment ataupun kita panggil LEAP. Dalam PTD ni kita buat. Dalam perkhidmatan awam ini kita buat. Ada A-LEAP, Advanced LEAP, kita panggil LEAP JEMA lah, LEAP Makjemah. J, Junior, E, Executive, M, Middle, A, Advanced. Advanced 54 naik jusa. M, Middle 52 nak naik 54. Yang semua dari punca kuasa dia When dalam mesyuarat lembaga naik pangkat apa semua ni. It's basically public information, nothing secret about this. Okay, sharing with you. So, ambil contoh cohort 21. These are actual data yang ni saya tak boleh share, nanti jangan ambil gambar, nanti Hazrul kena. But ini just for your eyes only. Bila kita map, dapat perfect bell shape. Kan? Siapa yang buat statistik tu? Perfect bell shape maksud dia kalau kita tengok J-Leap kat ujung sekali adalah junior leap. 40, nak naik 48 ni, daripada 44. Orang yang dapat band tinggi tu, adalah. Ada 4 orang. Lepas tu ramai dapat dekat band 4. Band 1 gagal band 2 lemah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So as they grow further, dekat A-Leap yang naik jusa ni, 20, 21 ada seorang je dapat. Yang nak naik 54 tak ada orang dapat band 5. The complexity of ni, kalau boleh share, orang yang naik jusa melalui A-Leap, daripada dia diperkenalkan tahun 2014 sampai 2022, baru 3 orang dapat band 5. M-Leap, daripada 2017 sampai hari ni, baru ada 21 orang dapat band 5. Salah seorang tu berdiri depan ni. Oh, poyo sikit. Siapa lagi nak puji pada ni kan? So, nampak So this is how we assess. Bila kita assess, this is the interesting part. Kita mapkan tadi, setiap band tadi, dia ada TLSA, thank you very much. I will conclude. TLSA, Think, Lead, Speak, Act. Kita tengok yang M-Leap je yang naik 54 ni. Bila kita buat assessment, majority yang color kuning adalah di band 3. So kita kata orang yang naik 54 tu, lead, they don't need leadership course. Sebab they are already at, a very high band punya, ni kan, hijau band 4. 52% dapat band 4 on leadership. Communication 69% band 3. So kita tahu orang yang nak naik 54 ni perlu kita address gap on communication and thinking. It helps us to find program khusus pembangunan yang sesuai untuk mempersiapkan pegawai kita yang di grade 54. Itu contoh. Yang lain tu, you boleh tengok dekat tu. Right? So last and but not least, dekat slide terakhir, bila kita dah ada LMPT tadi, plus penilaian potensi tadi, plus penilaian pihak ketiga yang kita buat LEAP tadi, dalam LEAP ni tadi ada satu slot penilaian psikometrik. So it's there. Tapi bukannya tujuan untuk menilai, tapi untuk kita create profile. Supaya dia tahu Azrul seorang extrovert, Azrul seorang ada mempunyai strategic mind yang tak sesuai duduk operation. Kalau dia suruh Azrul duduk kat kewangan, dia jam. Kan? Azrul tak sesuai duduk kat HR. Kalau suruh dia duduk kat HR buat gaji allowance orang, dia menggelupur. Tapi dia suka duduk kat depan, kat sini bagi talk, bagi motivation kat orang. Talk about how we move forward, how do you do strategic jobs. This is profiling yang kita boleh buat. So A plus B plus C boleh memudahkan urusan placement ataupun kenaikan pangkat. Will help us to make a very sound decision untuk menidakkan point system tadi. Okay, sorry I overshoot 2 minit Pak Din. So that's basically it from me. Thank you very much. Ada apa-apa PM tepi.
Terima kasih Tuan Azrul Izam Hamzah. Satu tepukan gemuruh untuk beliau. Mohon untuk Tuan Azrul kekal di atas pentas, ya. Saya memohon untuk Tuan Luqman Ridha Anwar, pendaftar Universiti Malaysia Sabah, untuk naik ke pentas dan menyampaikan cenderahati kepada Yang Berusaha Tuan Azrul Izham tanda terima kasih dari Kolokium Akab 2022 at Meliora. Majlis mempersilakan. Terima kasih sekali lagi diucapkan kepada Yang Berusaha Tuan Azrul Izham dan Profesor Madya Dr. Nur dan Tuan Luqman, ya, kepada Tuan Luqman kerana dan mengiringi Yang Berusaha Tuan Azrul untuk turun daripada pentas. Sidang hadirin dan hadirat sekalian, saya tertarik dengan apa yang diperkatakan oleh Tuan Azrul mengenai learn, relearn dan unlearn. Daripada pagi tadi kita dah dengar pelbagai, jadi perlulah kita lihat kembali apa yang telah diperkatakan oleh penceramah-penceramah dan mungkin ada perkara-perkara yang kita perlu unlearn balik dan belajar kembali. Ya, dan di antara perkara-perkara yang perlu kita lihat adalah bagaimana untuk memperbaiki pengurusan bakat dengan menggunakan digital dengan elemen kemanusiaan itu sendiri. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang saya hormati sekalian, hadirin hadirat, agenda Kolokium Akab 2022 at Meliora diteruskan pula dengan satu sesi forum yang bertajuk Amalan Pengurusan Baru Abad ke-21 Melihat Kecekapan Generasi Z. Sesi ini akan membariskan 3 orang pakar yang amat dikenali dalam arena pengurusan bakat dengan seorang pemudah cara yang saya kira tidak asing lagi bagi kita semua. Kolokium Akab 2022 at Meliora dengan seterusnya menjemput Yang Berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Nur Azharuddin Shah bin Abdullah untuk mengiringi 3 panelis pakar Yang Berusaha Tuan Nazrul Aziz dari Talent Corp, Yang Berusaha Puan Hani Razaif Bolanda daripada Dragonfire Corporate Solutions Senjam Berhad dan Tuan Clayton Tan dari Sunway Group untuk naik ke atas pentas dan memulakan sesi forum Kolokium Akab 2022 at Meliora. Dengan ini saya dengan sukacitanya dan gembira sekali menyerahkan majlis kepada Yang Berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Nur Azharuddin Shah atau yang kita lebih kenali sebagai panggilan mesra dia, Pak Din. Dipersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Terima kasih kepada pengacara majlis. Alhamdulillah kita semua telah sampai ke sesi yang terakhir, nampak gayanya. Jadi kita ada 3 orang pakar bersama dengan saya yang tak berapa pakar. Jadi untuk kita hilangkan ngantuk, marilah kita beri tepuk tangan sikit lah kan. Okay. Terima kasih. Jadi izinkan saya untuk meneruskan program kita pada hari ini dalam bahasa Inggeris dan juga campur-campur sikitlah bahasa Melayu ya. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We are extremely privileged here to have 3 very prominent individuals with us today in ACAP Colloquium 2022 at Meloria, a forum entitled, tu dia, Generation Z. Itu dia cerita dia, Generation Z. Everybody's talking about Generation Z now. Jadi, I will introduce the panel the moment the question comes to them. Itu dia, kita jadi misteri sikit lah kan. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce myself. I'm just Pak Din, okay, insyaAllah. And I'm privileged here to be moderating this session, insyaAllah. So, jangan risau ya, ada soalan dan sebagainya, kita entertain. And I think that we all, whether we realize or not, Generation Z is actually coming to us, whether we like it or not. And this is the time where we have this unique, orang kata, unique blend of different people with different identities. So without further ado, kita ada tiga round. We have 3 rounds. Each rounds have their own theme yang saya akan terangkan sedikit. Jadi kita mulakan dengan soalan yang pertama lah, tanpa menunggu-nunggu lagi kan. Soalan yang pertama, saya nak introduce dia dulu sekejap. Okay. Seorang yang saya kenali, seorang yang saya amat hormati. Alright. Puan Hani Razaif Polender, right? A friend, a mentor pada saya. She was named by Marketing Asia sebagai top inspirational icon for LinkedIn Malaysia from 2018 to 2020. Right? She's the general manager and co-founder of Dragonfire Corporate Solutions, Sdn Bhd, a KL-based management consultant. She's also known as the career doctor. Okay, everybody knows her as the career doctor on her very, very strong work on building careers. Okay, an expert in training, facilitation, teaching, and she does things at a lot of international levels, managing and growing careers. She's now completing her Marshall Goldsmith certification in stakeholder-centered coaching. She's also a member of the Monash University Malaysia's Board of Industrial Advisors, and she is recognized as a career coach in many, many governmental agencies. Jadi saya perkenalkan Puan Hani Razaif Polender bersama dengan kita pada hari ini, dan beliau akan menerima soalan pertama saya. Panel lain sabar dulu tak sabar nampak. Alright. Kita standby. Okay, all of us know. Team round 1 team general thing on Generation Z. Ada kita tak tahu Generation Z, ada kita macam tahu, ada macam buat-buat tahu. Ni kita nak bagi tahu. Okay, a general thing on Generation Z. As all of us know, Generation Z is actually a group that is defined to be born in the year between 1997 to 2012. So ada Generation Z kat sini, itu dia. Dah agak itu jadi isu. Alright. So this timeline, kalau kita tengok 1997 2012, kalau kita ambil 1997, this timeline makes that the earliest batch of Generation Z 25 years old. Bila 25 years old, that is the time that they come into the market. Right? An age where one would expect a bulk of them shall be joining the workforce as young professionals with tertiary education. Tak ketinggalan, universiti pun mula menerima Generation Z. Right? So as an HR specialist, Hani, have you felt the change? Or I may say, have you seen the gaps in the new Generation Z? Can you provide some examples? And how are they different from people like us or the group before that, millennials?
Definitely different from me lah. Who's a grandma here? Who's a grandma here? I'm a grandma. Who's Gen Z sini? Siapa Gen Z sini? Okay. Okay, so coming back to your question, Padin, thank you so much. So some of the things that I've observed in terms of perceived gaps is the way they communicate, right? So the way they communicate, number one, they want something instant. They want something instant, betul kan? All of this Twitter cepat, WhatsApp cepat. Kalau dia hantar FB, dia dah tak pakai FB. They're not on FB anymore. They're not on FB anymore. They're on TikTok. It's fast. They're on Instagram. FB is for the millennials. So especially, you know, like you.
Macam kita lah, malam ni saya tutup account Facebook saya.
Yeah. So they want very quick responses. And this is a bit of a problem when they communicate with the rest of the generation. Right? So for example, because they want something so quick through WhatsApp, dia punya language tu dah lain. Short form, betul? Kadang-kadang I pun tak faham dia tulis apa. Right? And so some of the other challenges is that when they come into the world of work, because the way they communicate, that grates against the grain of, say, their managers, who are mostly either the millennials or, unfortunately, sometimes they get their leaders as in the silent generation. So we know who are the silent generation. They are above 60s, right? Above 60s. So these are the silent generation. They would expect people to, you know, go to them, invite them for whatever occasion. Instead, the Gen Zs, they prefer to have least engagement that way and have something very quick. That's why dia tak pergi travel mana-mana ni, unless it's for a purpose. So they're purpose-driven. They're purpose-driven. Whereas many of us will go for teh tarik, right? Just because we want to socialize, just because we socialize. Is there a other purpose? No. But they're more purpose-driven. So I find that very interesting because to them, the purpose might be different as well. So another challenge is that the motivation when they enter into the world of work. So many of us will stay in an organization. I spoke to a few of our colleagues here, our friends here today. Some of our friends here have worked with the university, for example, 19 years, 21 years. I met someone today, 21 years. I forgot who it was. So 21 years. No Gen Z will stay in a job more than 2 years. On average, maybe 3 years if there is some motivation. But other than that, nope. You know why? Because they're not loyal to the company. What are they loyal to? They're loyal to purpose. They're loyal to purpose. So every job, every task has a purpose. Job done, purpose done, they hop on into the next task. Whereas for many of us, we stay 21 years old, we're okay. Because to us, the purpose is stability. There's end of the month salary so that we can pay our car, we can pay our house, thinking about the children, but they're not. They see the world with different lenses. So that's my observation. Maybe the rest can add on or, dispute.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. I think the key word is purpose here. I purposely go for teh tarik. So ada difference saya kat situ. Purpose dengan purposely. I mean, not saying that we don't have purpose, but I think that our purpose is further. Yeah, it's further driven. So very interesting. Anything you want to add, Nazrul, Clayton, on there was this one instance talking about orang kata penyesuaian. I usually do students graduating and they will come up with CVs. And the moment they design CVs, the design is contemporary design, if you know what I mean. So they have lots of graphs, they have lots of infographics, very different from CV zaman dulu yang banyak menulis. And font dia kecil, wait. Sangat kecil. Macam orang macam saya ni okay, but you know when you talk about senior managers ni dah umur 58, 60, font kecil susah nak baca. Kan angkat spek tengok apa ni. So sometimes they tend because they do not socialize as much.
Yes.
They do not see other people's perspective as clearly as they should be.
Yes. Maybe I just quickly
Sure,
go onto
yeah.
the CV or the resume. So being a career coach, when they meet Hani, I say, no, scrap it off. Because it doesn't conform to certain approaches. And it doesn't also conform to the ATS right now.
Yes.
So there is a specific certain formats that we have to adhere to, unless otherwise you're in creative industry. So that's different point. But of course, the other resources of getting through the resume, it is no longer with human being on the first vetting. So every year for the past 12 years, I've been going to most of your universities to educate your students. So unless somebody takes away this opportunity, I think I'll still be going to your universities for the next 12 years.
Always welcome, always welcome. Yes. Clayton, anything?
Yeah, I was thinking this part about purpose was very interesting because the way I look at generations that's coming in today, now we talk about Gen Z, I always wonder why is it that they behave in such a manner. Then I start to observe. See, people of us probably from an earlier generation, we have more carefree, easygoing, younger days. I grow up, whether we go to school or not, okay lah, school is open today, go to school. After school, okay, I play with my friends, hang out with my friends. So that was how the upbringing used to be. But Gen Z had a very different upbringing. And this is the upbringing probably a lot of us gave it to them. After school, you have tuition. After tuition, you have the next class. What are you doing? Jangan bazir masa lah, time to study. So it becomes, if it is not for a purpose, if it is not something useful, don't bother doing. So the exploration becomes lesser. It becomes very focused on, if this is not going to get me any results, I don't want to spend time there. And that's the behavior that's coming.
But that makes, usually when you talk to people when you're much older, right? The thing that you do without purpose will be the story. Kerja yang sia-sia yang kita buat tu biasanya akan jadi cerita kan. So this is very unique. So very interesting. So purpose, orang kata loyalty, those are the keywords yang kita ada dekat Generation Z. And these people are coming to us. Interesting enough. Right. Kita pergi pada soalan yang kedua pada pusingan yang pertama. Right. Let me introduce Encik Nazrul Aziz, my dear brother. Nazrul is currently the Vice President, Graduate, Diaspora and Industry Partnership with Talent Corp. He works collaboratively with key stakeholders across industry and academia to develop and execute demand-driven talent solutions to meet the current future trends and to actually make sure that the country doesn't run out of talent. Tu dia. Berat tak berat tugas dia. Okay. Nearly 20 years experience in the Malaysian Civil Service. He does everything under the sun. Social development, justice management, socio-economic R&D, HR, finance. He is the man of the moment. Nak kata. Sekarang begitu sibuk, WhatsApp saya pun tak jawab. Tuan Nazrul, your question. Very nervous. Having different values. Tadi kan kita cerita different values and outlook of life. The Generation Z is said to be different in their expectations of work. I wonder, as a person that looking into the national talent, what be the priorities that these Gen X will actually have when they're looking for work?
Gen X or Gen Z?
Gen Z. Gen X.
Gen X is us lah. So
Dia tak tidur. So Gen Z, yes.
I just want to reflect what Hani and also Clayton said just now that, it depends very much on how we define and how, the different perspective that the current generation have. So while we are saying that they don't socialize as much as we are, in fact, they socialize a lot on a different platform.
Yes.
So they are socializing with their co-gamer who's based in Belarus, for example. So that's their world. Their world. So you're asking them, hey, why don't you socialize? Go out. Yeah, I'm socializing. But in a different way. So that's how they are doing things. And of course, talking about purpose. I mean, we've seen and we know that there are wonderful story about their purpose. And you can wonder that, I've met one young chap who make his own money, young chap, at the age of, I think, about 25, 26, making his own money. And he's willing to pay 5,000 USD just to be in a group of specialists. It's like a secret group, comprising people across the globe with respective specialization. So they will share their specialization in that group. You can ask, for example, if you would like to start a business on biotech, there are biotech specialists in that group. If you would like to ask about digital or coding, whatever, there are, high-level coders in that group. And for you to be part of that group, you need to pay. And the amount is 5,000 USD. And I've seen a young chap willing to pay 5,000 USD to be in that group. So what I'm angling it from is, it depends on how actually we see it. But I would say that from our experience with students, we are talking about the context of IPTAs. We are working closely with IPTAs. And we must realize that the demographic of IPTA students mostly come from lower M40 or B40 family, correct? So they do not have this kind of exposure. So we are dealing with a different set of talent, because now we are talking about Gen Z. We also need to streamline the Gen Z based on their economic strata. Different exposure. The one I'm talking about, of course, coming from T20 family and exposed parents. Of course, he made his own money to pay that 5,000 USD, but he is able to do that because of the exposure that he had gained from the family upbringing. So when we go down, we met with a lot of students across IPTAs, and they are wonderful and smart students. There are two challenges that we face or we have with our students in IPTA. Number one, their professional networking, because they do not have the luxury of this professional networking. Unfortunately, when you are entering the career world, networking is super important. Basically, your value is your value of, your networking value. Second is professional exposure. So we can, apple to apple comparison, you can get, student A, student B, both getting good pointers, or maybe even student A getting better pointers, but student A coming from B40 family, student B coming from T20 family. And then when they go for internship, student B said they are doing accountant. So student B, no problem, because they have safety net behind her or him. They can go out and do free internship with the big five, for example. Nanti ada lah dalam dia punya CV kan, buat internship dengan PwC, KPMG ke, Deloitte, BDO. And they are okay because they can approach this big five and offering their service for free, which of course this big five happy to accept. This B40, tak ada connection, everything, where they will go? They will resort to their hometown, correct? Most of our students will go back and do their internship in their hometown, because you must understand the motivation behind it is also related to financial constraint. So katalah dia buat dengan, when I mention organization, not in any way that I'm disregarding, but what I'm saying, the level of exposure. So dia pergi buat dekat Bernas, dekat katalah daerah dia. So when they go out for their first job, tengok satu CV 3.7, ada experience dengan Bernas for 5 months, satu lagi maybe 3.1, 3.2, tapi ada exposure dengan PwC KL. Who do you think will get the job? Yep. No, yeah, it depends. But that's the exposure, and of course.
That's the question,
That's
isn't it?
yeah, that's a question. Yeah, that's a question. But of course, from the perspective of the industry, most of the time from our experience is the second one. Maybe, I mean, Clayton is more experienced because he's in the OD and also in HR side. I think he can confirm that. But what I'm saying is that for Gen Z, there are Gen Z who are very clear with their purpose. They are. And most of these Gen Z who are very clear with their purpose, they are coming from an exposed family or exposed life from their young days. But what we need to help now is actually Gen Z who lack exposure, lack guidance. And we are experiencing this. I believe that, I mean, we are here leaders in IPTAs, and I have strong feeling for IPTAs because I came from IPTAs also. So I think we need to support it. So that's something, I mean, we're talking about Gen Z, I mean, we need to streamline them, not generalize them by generation, just by generation. We also need to look at their background. And then the intervention will depend on that. Yep.
What's interesting, Tari, is when you get that Gen Z to enter the university as the new staff. That is a longer. Orang kata, fresh graduates keluar, we are talking about students going in, which is the output of the university. And mind you, most of the intake staff to local universities are from local universities. Are those group that is maybe deprived. So you're talking about fresh graduate, masuk 41, networking not as strong as those people who are out there in the industry. That's a big challenge. And coming from Generation Z, that's a bigger challenge because that physical contact you do not have anymore. So very interesting point. Thank you, Nazrul. Right, I would like to introduce our third panel before bertanyakan dia soalan. Mr. Clayton Tan, a friend of mine as well. He is a graduate of computer science, has a master's in business administration, wealth of experience in organizations. He's a people strategist guy, coupled with, management consulting, consumer electronics. There's a huge plethora here. Experience with large conglomerates. And his career has taken him around Southeast Asia, China, and Hong Kong. And, he's not only into his corporate life, he has leadership positions in voluntary organizations, Leo Club, Lions, and he's very active with his University Alumni Association. So, during his leisure time, he enjoys board games and video games. Interesting. Right. Clayton, being someone that is actually, you said that the growth that you had, I mean, is very different. Eh? Our growing times with what the growing times of the Generation Z, what they have slightly different. So arguably, they grew in a different formative experience. So the basics is different. So new technological and socio-economic developments, making them well-educated or having more information available, different from us. We need information, we go to the library those days. We read the newspapers. These people, they can just Google online and just get information there and then. I mean, on the part of the industry, being the person in charge of receiving talents, in your opinion, has Malaysia engaged enough of our own Generation Z to understand them? Because most of the time, we even at the university, giving advice, I'll give you advice. And you listen to my advice. I know what's good for you. But that's not the way for you to tackle Generation Z, right? So have we engaged them enough? That's my biggest question.
Well, it's very interesting for me to be in this panel today, and quite, why I say that is because I remember 10 years back, we were having also discussions like this. Those days we were talking about Generation Y. And those days I could say, oh yeah, I'm also part of this generation. But today, I look at the mirror and think, okay, my white hair coming out, I'm no longer part of this generation I'm talking about. And this Generation Z is quite an interesting generation. Well, I agree with you in terms of like, it's not so much about the age. I don't think what year to what year matters, but really about what exposure they get, the information that they are accessible to, the technology that they have today, the economic background, the socio-economic background. So like what Nasrul mentioned just now, let me respond to that first, because I was actually reflecting through that and thought, yeah, there are actually some truth in that very often when we generalize Gen Z, we always talk about this group of people who are probably more upper M40, T20 group of people. And it's not so much because their CV has KPMG, PwC. It is also because as they grow up, they spend time, my father has a business, my father has business meeting, I ikut juga. My mom's office, I can actually walk in and sit down together. I can sit in the meetings and understand all these finances. So they get a lot of exposure that the other generation, the other group of students may not get. So when they come out, it becomes a very differentiated competencies per se, but it's not something that is purposely done in that manner, right? So there are also people who then say, this generation are actually a bit more stressful despite getting everything. They feel very stressed out. And I reflected through that and also thought, why are they stressed out? Because those days, our generation, we get compared to our siblings. So at most, compare how's your result, how's your siblings' results. Chinese New Year, Hari Raya, balik kampung, how's your result? How's your cousin's results? So we get stressed out once a year, when we balik kampung. But this new generation gets stressed out every other day looking at social media. Today I thought my result is good. Tomorrow somebody else posts his result online, even better than mine. Today I thought I just bought my new car. Next day, hey, how come my friend same age as me got BMW already? So the stress level became even higher. Now, back to how much have we engaged this generation? I think the engagement that we have done with this generation is pretty good. But once again, it limits to one category of people. I take Sunway, for example, we do have very close collaboration with organizations like UKEC, like ICMS, the Institute of Malaysian Scholars, and ISAC. But when I look at most of them, they came from quite good background. So then what happened to the other group? That is why, very often our founder, Tan Sri Jeffrey, usually tell us, yes, we have Sunway University, but don't forget, work closely with the public universities as well, because they form the larger majority of the population in Malaysia. And it's important for us to get more involved, having more industry collaborations together with the students. So we do quite a lot of projects together to say, if you want to do final year project, fictional projects may not be that exciting. Come to us find out from us, we give you a live project. You do this as your final year project. So those are things that we do. And I think fortunate for us, sometimes we can also go to our own university and try to talk to students. We put together a future or work task force between the organization itself to say, we want the younger generations who just came in, some of these talents, to come in and talk to us. They sometimes have even tea talks with the chairman. And why this is important? Because I notice this is also quite similar to how family works. If the let's say my parents, when I ask them for something, it's usually very common that father can say to the son, no, you shouldn't do that. Tapi bila cucu tanya, okay. So similarly, when you want that understanding of that generation, let the newest entry talk to the most senior. They can connect very well. It is the in-between that sometimes you want to think about. Right, yeah.
Thank you. Very interesting. So maknanya it's like suggesting top level management to actually engage a bit more with the younger group. So when Generation Z comes into the office and they start to actually form the bulk, 3, 4 years, even now, I think more engagement needs to be done to them, with the senior members. So that the connection will be there and the understanding and the process can be made better. That's a very interesting point into looking at what's going on. Right. So everyone has gone round number 1. So everybody seems to be still okay. Are you still with us, huh? I want to still with us, huh? Okay, that's good. Right. I'm going to go into round number 2, and the theme is basically the challenges and actions in managing Generation Z. And being the deputy director of the Center for Leadership Profiling, I somewhat believe that the easiest way of profiling is when someone tells you your strengths and your weaknesses. I think that's. I did my primary schooling abroad. Half of my life I've been abroad, and 8 years when I was studying, primary school abroad. Most of the time is about teachers telling you what your strengths are. My kids now, they sing really well, and I would tell them that you really have a nice voice. And kids nowadays will ask you back, really? Are you sure? So that convincing part, I think that's the easiest part of profiling, when someone tells you what your strengths are and you start to believe that, indeed, that I'm extra in terms of that. So talking about profiling, right, I think I'm just going to give this to Nazrul to start the second round. Talent Corp has always been a champion for talent management, working with the government, preparing talents, now looking into Generation Z, especially fresh graduates, welcoming them into the nation's workforce. Talent Corp has so many interesting endeavors, successful. We have Kisah Siswa, because I was lucky to be a part of it. Thank you so much. My ASEAN, for example, young employable students, many more. I'm interested in the new My Next Talent initiative, which is basically when a young talent looks into himself, being profiled, and see what the gaps are. So they are being prepared slightly earlier in terms of competency and readiness. So can you share that initiative with us? And what is the current statistics that you're looking at?
Thanks, Padin. Padin spoke highly of. I'm also afraid with the word champion, because we are having a lot of challenges in this country, and the talent ecosystem very dynamic. It's not just within the country; it's also beyond the borders. So, that's a huge challenge. I would say that we tried our best. In the context of profiling, again, like I said earlier, that when we work closely with universities, we work closely with the career centers, we go down to campuses, we engage with the students, IPTA students across. We went everywhere, basically. So then we realized that how we want to create impact on a bigger scale, especially for students, like I mentioned earlier, those who lack exposure, those who lack guidance, is actually to provide a tools for them actually to understand themselves better. So, let me walk you through how actually we shape our work at Talent Corp related to graduates development or young talent development. So we simplify it to 4 phases. So the first phase is self-awareness. So we want our young talent to have better self-awareness, like Pak Din said just now, so that they know their strengths, so that they can develop on their strengths. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. I believe that you are here. You are also lecturers. You are dealing with young talent. Sometimes when you ask them, their awareness is also not there. If you ask them, can you list down your 3 strengths that you can leverage on? I bet that rarely you can get direct answer from them immediately. So I would say that if you cannot answer that within 30 seconds, mean that your self-awareness is not there.
Can I chip in a bit? Even younger staff having the same issue.
Yeah.
Not just graduates, younger staff having the same issue.
Because they go with the flow. So they will always go with the flow. Apa? Mic kena tinggi sikit lah. Oh ya ke? Okay. Minta maaf. Okay. So because of that, to improve that self-awareness, we developed that profiling tool called MyNext so that we can create bigger impact at a bigger scale. Because we are small, we couldn't afford actually to go and touch every university student. We have at one time, the enrollment is around about 285,000. I mean, no way we can touch 285,000 students. But the best way is actually to create a platform where actually we can help them. That's how actually we developed MyNext in 2017 actually. It started off as a profiling tool. The second phase of our young talent development is industry awareness. And that's the reason why we work closely with industry people so that we get people from the industry to talk directly to our students. Okay, tak apa, dia tak ada pendedahan daripada dia punya parents. Kita bawa industry actually to support them. That's the second part. What they will do now is actually when they understand their strength through that profiling, they can now understand what is actually demanded from them. What are the demands of the industry? So they can map their strength and the demand of the industry. Then we go to the next phase of positioning of branding. So we are also helping them with their branding, how they want to position themselves based on their strength, and then what are the demands of the industry. So first is self-awareness, industry awareness, then we go to branding, professional branding. So after they dah settle branding, and then after that we send them to internship. That's the reason also why we have structured internship program. So, or MySIP. So structured internship program is actually to prepare them in the final lab before they go out to the industry. So what we are telling is, if we walk through the students, especially those who are coming from B40 family through this route, the whole strategy is actually to get them actually to prepare themselves right from the very beginning.
Yes.
Means that they need to plan for their internship earlier on. So I think that, we have leaders here. Let's advocate and help our younger generation to plan their career in advance. Because why? There's a reason for it. For those who lack exposure, internship is the best platform for them to stand a chance to gain first employment.
Right.
Because the biggest hurdle, if you ask any young talent, the biggest hurdle is always to gain the first employment. Susah nak dapat pekerjaan pertama. And that's why if you look into tracer study, Khazanah Research Institute also look into tracer study. There's some finding that apart from those who pursue their study or waiting for job offer, the real employment stand at 60%. If you go deeper into that 60%, I think about 40 to 50% are actually employed at the level where they are educated at tertiary level. And because of that, the outcome of tertiary education is, the concern is 2 out of 3 are earning lesser than 2,000.
Yep.
So, this is a problem statement that, let's us work together actually to address based on the route that I shared just now, actually to prep our students. For industry, what we are doing is to advocate, telling the industry that use internship as your talent pipeline strategy. At least our students who are, coming from the lower socioeconomic strata will stand a chance to be considered. Because, okay, HR, when you open up one position, how many CV you will receive? Thousands. And now they are using ATS, an AI system where they will then scan all these resume, correct? Career doctor?
Yeah.
Basically, your fate is determined by AI. If your CV, because of your lack of exposure, is not AI friendly or ATS friendly, it will not capture all the skill set required, you'll be rejected by machine. So that is real scenario. Real scenario. So for these students who don't have exposure, how on earth they are going to be considered not even getting the opportunity to get that first job, even to be considered. So because of that, that's how actually Talent Corp work on this. This profiling, we have 5 profiling in total, plus 1 English assessment. So, we can go details. You can go to MyNext, mynext.my. we are working closely with career centers. MyNext is also part of GE strategic plan of KPT. And we would like to work closely with all IPTAs actually to empower our students and also career centers. To an extent now, actually, we are cascading it down so that the university can actually read your student's profile up to program manager level. I mean, last time it was centered to career center, but we also realized the problem statement. Career center, I mean the what do you call
Talent centers.
the career counselor ratio to students is huge.
Yeah.
In no way career counselor can touch every student in that university. No way. So that's why we are empowering, working with, we understand that problem statement, we are now empowering it up to faculty level. I mean, some universities have campuses, different campuses, and then up to program level. To date, after we launched the 3.0, we stand at around 30,000, but then
Oh,
30,000.
That's good.
But the previous version 1.0, 2.0, we had 160,000 data points.
Right.
And
Interesting.
this is across universities. And of course, we just launched on the 11th of August. So we would like to go big and get involvement from all IPTAs actually to get our students so that we can support and help our students. Yep. So that's the whole idea of this profiling. I mean, it's for them actually to improve their self-awareness so that they can chart their career. Yep.
It's very interesting because if you turn the tables, right? If you then turn the tables for universities to receive talent, right? For university to receive new Gen Z talents, wouldn't this be an interesting point for them to actually look whether the candidates actually fit into the job that they are actually offering?
I mean, basically what we are advocating about profiling is actually this profiling can be done in different points.
Yes.
Actually, the best part of this profiling is it should be done earlier on in the upper secondary school.
Yeah.
So they know where they are heading to, they know their strength. So before they choose their stream, they are aware where they are inclined to. So that's the first step. But of course, I mean, there's a long way to go. We start at tertiary level. And by the way, Talent Corp is already going into school. We are piloting with school
Interesting.
already because we would like to have that young talent. And for recruitment, definitely yes. I mean, some companies are already using profiling actually to align.
Yep.
To align whether this profile actually, apart from the academic qualification, suit or not.
Yes.
Yep. And that's the reason also why you are seeing doctors who are now quitting their job and doing business. And maybe because of that, they have the capability, I mean, they have the intelligence actually. I mean, of course, for you actually to graduate as a doctor, I mean, you need to get good result, right? But maybe their value, interest, and preference are not aligned with the career.
Yes.
And because of that, the resiliency of them actually to stand or to stay in that career of choice might not be there.
So interesting point. Profiling via intake, you know, for people receiving talent, that's number one. And number two, profiling to be done as early as possible. So very, very interesting. Thank you. Second question second round, going to Mr. Clayton. For a diverse establishment like Sunway Group, will surely be challenges in terms of managing different generations in your workforce. What do you think the biggest challenges would be? And have Sunway embarked into a route where it could be a simple strategy for Sunway to be a more desirable organization to retain the best Gen Z talents? How would, I mean, this is like selling a bit. How would the public universities go out and say that we are an interesting job option for Generation Z? Susah tu.
I don't have a simple strategy. It sounds like a very challenging task. But I'm glad I'm here today and I now find out about MyNext also. Hopefully that becomes an option for us to channel and pipeline talents in the organization as well. Right. Well, I see the attraction and retention being, although two separate portions, very often I see it as together. You see, I see a lot of organizations going out to say, we are this great, we are this good, we care about the different generations and whatnot. But if there isn't a congruency as to what I advertise versus what I do, my product, my culture is what I do, then eventually I have no retention. And that becomes the second challenge trying to solve the first challenge. Right. So if you were to ask me what is my challenge today, I don't think the challenge comes from the diversity of the people. Yes, diversity do pose some challenge. I don't think the challenge comes from Gen Z. The challenge came from us being so diverse as a business. Now, I'll give you an example. Whenever I ask people, okay, do you want to join Sunway? What do you want to do in Sunway? The engineering faculty will tell me, yeah, I want to be in construction. The business faculty might tell me, yeah, I see you have good shopping malls. I want to be in the shopping malls. The medical faculty says, well, you got medical center. I want to be medical center. But we also have some industries where very rarely I hear any student say, yeah, I want to go there, like the quarry. So we also do have the quarry, the manufacturing industry. So it really goes into educating also about what's the important part of this industry. Well, I used to be in construction, and people always say construction is a 3D industry,
Right.
the dirty, the dangerous, and whatnot. Then I remember talking to a group of students and then asking this question. You see, we can say we want to be in the high-tech industry. I can be the next, state-of-the-art mobile phone inventor. You can invent that. When you have grandchildren, you tell them I invented something, but sorry lah, this thing is a bit obsolete already. Right? But if I'm in construction industry and I build an iconic building, I tell my children, oh, I left a legacy. It's a very different story. So it's important for us to be able to look into what is their motivation, what do they really want to achieve. So some of what we do to try to also encourage and attract people into Sunway is that we notice the new generations, there are a lot of them because they see Mark Zuckerberg, they see Elon Musk, they say, I want to be businessman, I want to be just like you. But we say, okay, if that is the case, maybe it's good for us to also have a path for them to explore entrepreneurship. So since this company started as an entrepreneur-driven company as well, although today it became a conglomerate, we say, instead of saying you experiment with this huge listed entity, of which is going to be more regulated, we then have an arm called iLabs. So we now have iLabs, Sunway Ventures, Sunseed Capital, to look into investing into, little startups. And with the students, we can say, okay, if you have good business ideas, you can pitch to us. So you have two ways to come to us. You can come to us and say, I want to join the Management Associates program and grow my career. Or I got a good business idea. I want to pitch my business idea to see if you want to invest. And then we have an accelerator to grow them. Now, to some students, especially now we touch on a bit of the more underprivileged again, then they will be saying, but going to university itself could be expensive for me. I want to be able to, program, this idea that I have, but I don't have the skill. So then what we now have is what we call 42KL. 42KL is actually a coding school. Yeah, this is a coding school that doesn't have any lecturers. So it's a community. We tell them the infrastructure is there. Once you go through the assessment, if you get through, you come in. The assessment is just logic thinking. We will let you go through a 24 months program. No lecturer, it's just a community, and therefore no fees charged. So we also have B40 communities coming through from the coding school into the accelerator and then grow from there. So it is important for us to make sure we know where the touch points are and then we target them in different areas. We still do have the likes of the Oxford and the Cambridge graduates, looking into strategy. We also do have those who want business and have that multiple platform for them.
Thank you, Clayton. Very interesting part that, Sunway has embarked into different ways of putting in education for the young workforce to be entering the workforce, not your usual degree kind of thing, right? So it's very interesting.
In fact, let me add one more. Something that a lot may not know. We are into farming too.
Right.
So if we have any agricultural faculty, because we went to X-Farm because we think urban farming is something important, it would be nice if we can do some collaboration together, because we think we want to attract the young people to say farming is still attractive as an industry to go into.
Interesting. For university intake, for example, to become a university staff, let's say you're talking about new Generation Z coming in, and now you've got Generation Zs, which has tertiary education, but now you've got Generation Z without that certification, but having alternate routes in terms of having something that they profess in, an expert. Wouldn't public universities be in the losing end if we are relying just on paper qualifications as an entrance into work?
Okay, maybe to touch a bit on that, I wouldn't say public university will be in the losing end. I probably see more of opportunities for us to collaborate a little bit more. Take, for example, I do see some programs, there's this sandwich program that, they can go to university for the first 2 years, learn something first, take a year in the industry, and the industry could actually be us in that partnership. Then they complete their final year. And that also solved what Nasrul mentioned just now about, that first job is difficult, but because there is that 1 year sandwich, 1 year spent with us, it became easier. Especially for, let's say, career like culinary arts. We have our hotels, spend a year in F&B, and then return to university and complete the degree. That gives them that additional edge.
Okay, got it, right? Interesting. So it's a blend of many things rather than, right? Hani, to conclude the second round, we are both in the Talent Corps' Kisah Siswa story. And during Kisah Siswa, we had fresh graduates, and we also had people who were unfortunately retrenched.
Yes.
So when we got our mentees, right?
Yep.
Wow, senior, with such an age, a bit of experience. It's different to handle them in terms of coaching and mentoring, right? What would be your advice for administrators in the university in terms of maintaining talent? So the universities, it's odd. This morning I said something. It is really odd for a public university that is actually supplying talents not being able to maintain their own talent. So for those young administrators out there, what do they need? What would be your advice?
Okay. But then, I have always been going against the grain, right?
All right.
So
okay.
I'm just giving a heads up. What I'm going to say might be a pain. Okay. I'll try to be gentle.
Thank you.
So basically, the perception from the industry is that entering into the academia world is very restrictive, conservative. I liken it to banking, law, religious setup, and accountancy. So this is very conservative. Things move slower. I saw some nodding heads there. Simply because there are a lot of information to be processed. There's a lot of thinkers in the organizations, including the administrators. They come into their roles starting from young, and they've been molded in such a way that they behave, act, think exactly like that. And that's the reason why change takes a bit of time, I would say.
I'm nodding slowly. Yes.
We're recording this, right? Cover line. Yeah, so for the young administrators, I think it's very, very important. Sangat mustahab untuk realize that the world has changed, really. And to change certain policies may not be in our lifetime. So here I am today, kan Pak Din. You know, I'm still talking about fix your resume when you enter the world of work. I've been doing the same thing for the past 25 years. I've been going to your university for the past 12 years. I've been invited to so many programs. And in fact, when the first GEP program rolled out, I think about 7-8 years ago, my own alumni starting with UKM and UPM and all that, about 8,000 alumni. And you know what? I've been talking the same thing. Change your resume. So what I'm saying is that certain things I don't think will change in my lifetime. So my question is why? Why? There are only a few things that we need to look at. People, process, system.
Yes.
People, process, system. Right? So you have the right people, you don't have the process, you don't have the system. Then your people is useless. It's useful there, but you know,
Not maximized. Yeah.
not maximized. So if you have the process, all the process and all the system, but you don't have the people, then you need to fix it, right? So you need to do the assessment, you need to do the proper recruitment, you need to also do talent, employer branding. So Sunway has a big name. You know, people, they can stand at any one corner and say, hey, the vacancies, there's like a zillion people going. So coming back to your question, how do we do this? Yeah. Right? Because the narrative has always been restrictive, conservative, because that's what it is. So the challenge is, are we gutsy enough to change the narrative? So that's my point.
Interesting.
Where?
Thank you. Yeah. Looking into the universities, right? I don't know, going out on a survey, how many people would like to work in a local university? That's the thing. That's the biggest question. I mean, we are all from local universities. Are we branding enough? Because without the change, you will get the same mold of people coming and doing the same thing. That's the challenge.
The branding, I think Nazrul spoke about, you know, the awareness about the industry, right? So awareness about industry, one of it is networking. Kita kena buat networking. And the fact that we're all here today, I think thanks to Pak Din punya network lah. Your network is your net worth. Right? So a lot of those students, ataupun kita sendiri kat dalam hall ni, I am wondering how many of you have gone onto LinkedIn platform, contohnya. So remember, Facebook is for the old school. We don't work on Facebook groups anymore. We don't do that, right? So on LinkedIn is the new way of doing things. Right now, TikTok. Even I put it on TikTok. I don't really use it, but the fact remains that the world has changed, and here we are still, you know, chasing, and we're still like 10 kilometers away, right? So we need to change that, and by getting on that platform, we speak about our passion being an educator.
Yes.
Right, sharing information. We talk about our alumni, for example.
That extra mile, isn't
That
it? Yeah.
extra mile is so important. We spoke about, you know, our experiences in our universities. By the way, I didn't have universities until now. Okay, I didn't even graduate when I was, you know, for some reason until now. But I spoke with so much passion about the universities that I've worked with. And it's so good. You know why? Because I have the passion. I'm very sure all of you have the passion. So get on board. to this new way of doing things. I know, I think the fearful part is because not many of us understand the workings of these things. Right? So LinkedIn, yeah, I have an account, but I don't know how to use it. Well, get somebody to teach. Unlearn.
Very interesting point. When you go on LinkedIn, right, you will be pointed to the people who are in the similar role that you do. So automatically LinkedIn will suggest, and you can actually stalk the profile. And one of my sifus always told me, right, CVs are not there just to get jobs, but CVs are there for you to gauge your competencies, to see how well that you have adapted to your job compared to your peers. So the question is, would me, a lecturer, would be able to compare my output to a premier university's lecturer? Where are we now? So Summer, the same question I would like to ask the administrators. You know, have you achieved that level which is similar to that international level that you have? Have we done enough? So I'll just stop there. All right. So let's go to round number 3, the future in managing Generation Z. So I'll start with Clayton. Right? I am interested to know that Sunway works a lot with Gen Z, right? And Sunway has walked the extra mile for the journey, for them to be trained and developed in a very different way. What competencies you think that the Gen Zs have and what we should focus on in terms of getting them into the workforce, especially the university, being a staff of a university?
Okay. Let me give it a deep thought. So, where I think Gen Z is good today, is access to information. Most of the time, if you want something, you want to know something fast, whether is it news or is it just, any rumors, or is it any, technical models? You ask them what is it, they have a way to search and Google it up and come back with a whole load of information. Right? Whether to put the information into right perspective or not, separate story. We'll talk about that in a separate topic. But they are very good with information.
So finding information,
Yeah, finding information, that's fantastic. And they can also be very focused, very resourceful into wanting to get their job done. Right? This is what I think is good. Well, in Sunway, we have the opportunity to say, we have Sunway Group and we have Sunway University. By the way, Sunway University is technically Sunway Group, but a separate entity because it's non-profit organization, right? So with that collaboration, it helps us to be able to say, yes, if the university, you want some corporate people to come in and guest lecture for your students to have more exposure, we can send that direction. And it can be a two-way thing, which today, when I hear from Pak Din that over here, a lot of you are from the talent management perspective of the respective universities, I was thinking, we could actually do this a bit more, right? I have my talents, which probably are specialized in some topics. And if you want someone to probably speak on that topic, reach out to me and then I see if I could connect with someone. And at the same time, I think it could be a two-way thing. If you have some good talents that you feel, these people probably is good for them to have some corporate exposure. I want them to be attached with Sunway for some time, get some exposure, and then come back when they become academics. They are also able to talk from the corporate perspective. That becomes good opportunity for us to find ways to collaborate. Well, I'm not sure how much of this we can do. These ideas that comes to my mind, which I think, yes, these are ways that we can make career path more attractive for especially young talents today. They will always ask, what's next for me? I'm bored already. I'm doing this for so long. What more can I do next? the advantage we have is that, you know, we can have someone who started as even HR. Next day, not okay lah, not next day lah. Too soon to say next day. Few years down the road, say, you know, I think I want to try my hands on managing a shopping mall. We have one of our shopping malls today where the center manager is actually a former HR person. We have someone who says, yeah, I want to do facilities management. Now, we send the person to Johor to say, yeah, it's a new place. You can start off facilities management, also former HR person. We have finance people who says, technology is the next big thing now. I want to learn technology. We put them through what we call the robotics cognitive automation. And now this person is transferred to the IT team, today leading the RCA team. So I think this kind of exposure, being able to move them from one place to another, you know, giving them, you know, every 3 or 4 years, give them a change in the kind of role that they are doing. It does not even need to be a promotion. It could be a change of role, a stretch assignment, a project I'm going to put you in, and this project is going to be visible, you know, all the senior people will see the results of this project. Is a meaningful project. Sometimes I do notice, if we talk about Gen Z, if it is meaningful enough, this is the gaming generation. You know, gaming, why I call them gaming generation. Gaming generation means if I play video game and the video game is exciting enough, I don't need to sleep. Tomorrow morning, I need to go to class, also I don't have to sleep, right? So this gaming generation, if it's exciting enough, you give them as a side project and tell them, your actual job you still need to do, but this is the side project, very exciting. Okay lah, never mind, I don't sleep, also I do it. That is the kind of energy we can get from them if we can inspire them well enough.
This is the Gen Z that we're dealing with at the current moment. Thank you, Clayton.
I just want to add on to what Clayton said just now. Okay, sebenarnya, when we work closely with IPTAs, I mean, as much sometimes we are saying that, oh, kita ni maybe dekat IPTA not as enticing as IPTS, for example. But actually, do you realize that you have all the resources within your campus, for example? There are many things within your campus that could be an attraction to our young talent. You have all the facilities. And then my question is, what would be a barrier for you, or what's stopping you from engaging with the industry partners? As many or as much information that you can absorb from your industry partners. And these are the things that will excite the young talent, because they would like to have different experience. And one thing that yang kita ada dekat IPTA is, you are the resource center. The best brains are in the universities, so to speak. Generation Z ni, they are purposive, like we discussed. So another opportunity for institution is also to look at, when you engage with your industry partners, try to understand what are the problem statements of the industry. Channel them back to the young talents, get them to solve the problem of the world. So that create purpose and create excitement. And of course, if you work closely with the industry, with the right framework, they are even willing to channel and fund it, because that will solve their problem.
Congruence, isn't it? It's a big point of congruence.
Yes. Okay. If you look at the research that we have in universities and also from the industry, I mean, this is the feedback that we are getting. I mean, there's some misalignment between the researchers that we have in our institution and the problem statement that we have in the industry. So if we can congruent this, I mean, bring everyone on the same page, I think we can create that excitement for our young talent. And I mean, I would say that, of course, you don't go to the pay scale. Yeah. But if you create enough excitement, you will get the best brain into your organization. And okay, I'm not highlighting one university, but I mean, this is the feedback from the industry academia collaboration session that we have. So when we went to Penang, we had this, we call it industry academia collaboration workshop with all the E&E players there, top E&E players. Intel was there, ATNS was there, Benchmark was there. I mean, the top players, Semicon there. So one common information that we have captured from that session is they love Unimap. They love Unimap. Almost every industry that we ask within that workshop say that the first talent pool that they are looking at is Unimap, not private institution. So, I mean, I'm highlighting because this is my genuine and sincere input that I have captured from the institution. And they love that. I mean, the first talent pool that they're looking at is Unimap. Yep. So, what I'm saying is that the branding is correct.
Yes.
I'm not sure because I have not understood. I mean, we haven't gone deeper of what are the right things that Unimap has done. But what I'm saying is that
Something must be done
something
right.
must be done right, that the branding, I mean, created from the industry perspective is right. And I'm not getting this input from just one company. And they are top companies. And I wonder, they did not mention private universities. They mentioned Unimap. So thinking then I told our team that, hey, there must be something right about them, that let's go there, understand what are the things. So definitely we'll be in touch with Prof. Zaliman actually to know that, I mean, what are the right things that they are doing there. But one thing that we realize is their industry network is strong. Their industry network is strong. So I would say that for us actually to create that branding, I mean, let's link closer with the industry and do not look beyond. I mean, just look surrounding your campus. There are many resources, your industry partners surrounding your campus that you can actually partner. I have engaged with some of our academia, our leader, lecturer. Then when we had this conversation, and then the lecturer was asking how she could engage to industry. And the campus is just within the vicinity of an industrial zone. So we're thinking that, before we were thinking that we need to get the student actually to develop networking with the industry. Then we realized that we must be together with the lecturers so that we can develop the industry linkages. And of course, if the lecturer have that good industry linkages, definitely it will benefit the student and the whole organization as a whole. Yep.
Kalau nak buah tak boleh nak keluar, the administrators kena keluar dah. You have to start to engage and then look into opportunities in terms of working together, especially building talent in university. So that's one key. Thank you, Nazrul. Final two questions. Hani, being an entrepreneur yourself, what are the entrepreneurial opportunities of human resources coming from universities?
Okay. So very good question. Sebabnya baru semalam my husband bercerita. You see, my husband works very closely with quite a number of universities because he's a proofreader. He's a research paper punya proofreader and as well as editor. So he's pretty much, I think he has seen like gazillion thesis and research papers that I can never understand in my entire life, seriously. Tak faham. Kan? Jadi dia punya komen ialah, all these papers, they're very good. They talk about contohnya logistics challenges in Sabah and Sarawak and what are the possible solutions. So they talk about, size of tires and all that. And I was like, wow, such detailed findings. And you know why it works in these papers? Because effort has been done to put into the research. Times taken, the mapping of the information was done as well. Tak ada sampai 20 orang, dia nak beratus-ratus dia punya mapping tu kan. So it is done nicely. But you know what's the problem? No one knows. No one knows about the research. And I think that's like sayangnya.
No one knows.
No one knows
what we are doing, right?
And no one knows. So I was like, wow. He actually posted up this statement on LinkedIn yesterday Jadi for me, I sit on the industry advisory board for Monash, right? So orang kata, yelah, you bolehlah duduk dekat Monash gini-gini, tapi sebenarnya I pun tak alumni Monash pun. I tak alumni Monash pun. I've never graduated from Monash. But why I was there? Because I did a lot of work with them in the talent space. So they say, tak apalah Hani, we honor you punya kerja sebab kita pun tak bayar you kan. I didn't get paid for any of those, but to honor some of the work that we have done, they call me in to become the industry advisory board. So the only way that I see for us, the industry and also the entrepreneurs to understand is to be sitting in the boards lah, and trying to persuade them to commercialize, which is a lot of problem. Sebab apa tahu? Dia kata, but then, dia banyak excuse. Dia banyak excuse. Funding tak ada lah, but that's besides the point. Because macam katakan, Sunway ke, or Talent ke, or wherever else, the under other industries, if they see some potential, they will want to commercialize it. You know, for example, ada one university, I'm not going to mention name, dia ada satu center untuk profiling. Okay, they talk about brain science. Very interesting. Dia punya teori ialah untuk marketing. But I said, you can use this for talent mapping. You can use this. You tweak it here and there a little bit. So I kata, why don't we commercialize it? Sebab they spend something like $500,000 kot on that facility. You can use it, you know, you commercialize it, you rent it out for talent assessment and all that. Tapi jawapan dia ialah, tapi kan Hani, susahlah kita tak ada marketing arm. You know, there's always an answer to a problem. There's always an answer to the problem yang tidak membina. Jadi as an entrepreneur, here I am, you know, quite gung-ho going into all these research papers. I see potential, and if I were to have that day, I would want to commercialize a lot of things. I saw a lot of contohnya some research papers from UPM. UPM produced so many research papers that I thought you can commercialize it. So one of the universities yang I rasa dah ada banyak pattern, and they commercialize it. UMK is doing some great work right now, I think. Universiti Utara Malaysia have done some really good work. And there's a few, UKM also I think. But again, I think there's always a fear of, you know, we're doing this in the confinement of our industry. So as an entrepreneur, I find this sayang lah. Sebab every word that we put into the research paper with some recommendation, workable recommendation, is not being commercialized. You know, like leaving carbon footprints. Recently, I read a research paper on how to manage carbon footprints in China. In China, and research being done by our Malaysian lecturers here. So, but you know, no one knows until I read the paper from my husband.
Today, I think it's all about getting things known, right?
Yes, it is all about getting things known. So coming back to your question, kan, about, you know, the young talent development professionals here, right? Maybe I can challenge you a little bit to join the industry, approach the industry to learn how the way we do things outside here, because we're the receiving end. We're the receiving end, and maybe perhaps learn the better ways of doing things. I mean, you know, this is the true collaboration, I would say. You know, we can learn one or two things from the universities.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Hani. And our final question today, Tuan Nazrul. So, behavioral science is somewhat on track with My Next Talent. It's a big thing, isn't it? Behavioral science. So, your opinion, what is next to help Gen Z? We have engaged them, we have profiled them, yet the values are they are not going to stay long. You know, universities, for example, would need. I used to have this phrase on my CV: looking for a long and successful career with your institution. My CV lah, it works wonders lah. So how can we gain as universities, right, looking for fresh graduates to come in and join them as staff, right? How can we gain their trust?
I'll bring this question to a different perspective. I mean, we are all parents here, right? I mean, Gen Z born 1996 to 2012. Of course, we don't want to profile that much, but I mean, basically, they are all our kids. I mean, some grandkids, of course. I mean, in fact, my eldest is within that group also, born 2009. Yep. So we know. I mean, we know the profile of our kids, right? Senang ke nak convince dia orang. And of course kita akan bandingkan zaman kita dulu kalau kita cakap, parents cakap tu kita ambil lah. Dengar, terima. Kalau cakap tak, we'll stop. Tidak, kita pun tak berani juga kan. But with them, it's always about reasoning. Because it ties back to the purpose. Because they always ask, when we ask them actually, now you go and read, for example. They will ask, why I need to read now? So again, how we are managing our younger generation is also to align the purpose. The alignment of the purpose is important. The alignment of the purpose. And it must be done not when they are in the organization. It must be done prior to that. Even during the interview session, say if you have assessment center, for example, right from there actually, they need to understand the value and purpose of your organization. That's the first context. Because then, when they enter the organization, the alignment is already there. So that's the first context. And of course, we also need to be fluid like water. Last week, we went to Penang again. Reason why we are active in northern region, Penang, Kedah.
It's because of the nasi kandar, right?
Correct. Sebab yang tu cerita lain Pak ni. Sebab Penang kampung kita kan, kita balik Penang selalu lah. No, the reason why Talent Corp is active in Penang because that's a growth area. I mean, we received investment last year, for example, for 2021. I mean, actually, our FDI coming in actually threefold. From about 56B in 2021, we recorded around 200B. And the huge chunk of this investment are actually to Penang and Kedah, primarily in the E&E and Semicon, and that's the reason why we are there. So we met with the CHRO of Intel. Okay, Intel. So she was sharing that even the engineers and the technical talent, they are asking for flexible working arrangement. Then that strike our mind that, I mean, we know that, I mean, our generation, if we are working in technical field, we know that we need to go there and physically work there. Because it's technical, how on earth you are going to do things? Engineering, for example, how you are going to have that flexibility working from home if you are an engineer? But because that is common demand of the young talent in their organization and they want to retain the best talent, they need to be fluid and they shift, they think. Then they need to come up with a very flexible policy where there will be time where they'll be given time actually to maybe have some time for them to think, reflect. Technical is technical, but I mean, they also need to reflect, revisit the process, everything, so improve. So that part can be done at home. So, I mean, they are working on that. And in addition to that, they are also shifting. I mean, if we can allow you to be flexible at home, we bring the home to the office. So that's where actually they are coming out with the state-of-the-art gym, for example, at their workplace, so that at any point of time when they want to go, have that flexibility at the gym. So they create like, I mean, the Google like punya office because, I mean, that's the demand of the talent. Okay, what is the challenge? SME couldn't adopt. SME couldn't afford. So what I'm saying is that in the context of university, how to create that depends very much on the context of our organization. Look within our resources. We need not to be the Google of the world because we couldn't afford it. Kita nak sembang, kita nak edit Google, we couldn't afford it. Nak dapat OS dengan nak dapat OEDE pun struggle, right? So, but we have all the resources within the campus that we can actually create that assignment. Sometimes it does not cost us money. So I'm saying that, I mean, if talking about universities, you need to look at the context of the universities, develop strength, sama macam profiling lah. You need to profile our institution, organization, understand what are the strength of our organization, and develop that excitement or how you want to attract talent based on the strength that you have. I shared about Intel, they can afford it, they are MNCs. But we are not Intel. So what I'm saying is that I'm just hearing that we need to fleet and be flexible about how we approach things. Sometimes it's just leadership shift. Maybe getting the structure flatter or the chain of command is different. Reduce the protocol, for example. Sometimes it's that small shift, like, I mean, allow a contribution for our younger generation. Create a session where they actually can contribute, for example. I mean, I'm just giving some example that we can adopt. But again, you know your organization best, and you know the strengths of your organization. Build on it.
The fear is always when the moment your talent pool starts to shrink because there is no longer interest of the Generation Z to be a part of your purpose. So ladies and gentlemen, I will stop there. Dan saya nak buka kepada siapa-siapa yang ingin bertanya soalan. Any questions coming from the floor? Yes, silakan Tuan Hafizi.
Thank you, Pak Din. My name is Rafizi. I'm from UITM. Just would like to hear from our panel. In 2009, our former Prime Minister said, the era of government know best is over. Okay? So, that can be considered as game changer as well in terms of managing the public sector. Okay? So, we are now talking about the public sector, especially managing public university. So, it is very much reflect all of us today when we're talking about implementing the process of implementing competency-based talent management in public university, because we've been talking so much about Gen Z. Actually, the one that championed the agenda for implementing the CBTM in public university is those from Gen Z, X, and Y. Okay? Where, in my opinion, not referring to any institution, in my opinion, the baby boomers, the old one, they don't really comfortable with competency-based talent management. You know why? Because they prefer the traditional method of managing HR. Because we are talking about competency-based. To identify the best talent, we always say this, the right person at the right job, at the right position, at the right everything. Because the baby boomers, I mean the old one, they don't prefer this agenda, not refer to Pak Din, okay? But they look at it as an opportunity. I mean, they don't really keen into implementing this CBTM because they've been in the strategic position, let's say. So by having this CBTM, they might not get opportunity to get to another strategic position after retirement. You see? So this recycle of talent happen in public sector. Okay? And yeah, the question is, no, I have no offense. Not that I respect the elders. Okay, I understand. Tiada lama, tiada baru. Okay, but just to quote Pak Din tadi, Pak Din said about
resume apa font kecil kan. I went for one interview, you know, I bring video resume. And you know the chairman of the interview asked me, apa benda tu? I say, we've been talking about how Gen Z is not check up whatsoever. The Gen Z might say, apa orang tua ni mengarut, ini pun tak tahu ke? Okay? So my question is, we should give opportunity to the young talent. Okay, my former Vice Chancellor Dato' Hassan used to be the dean at the age of 34. Okay, and if we want to go to the extreme example, Sultan Al-Fatih conquer Constantinople at the age of 21. Okay, so I just want your opinion, our dear panel. Should we give more opportunity to the young talent, and those who are in their era of retirement, they should retire. You see, they should enjoy their retirement. Okay, not looking an opportunity for another strategic position. I mean, this is not referring to anyone. It's
Okay,
just
I'll
my
retire tomorrow.
opinion. Thank
I'll
you.
retire tomorrow. Thank you, Tuan Hafizi, my good friend. Thank you so much.
Tuan Rafizi, seronok lah dengar you punya hujah. Itulah dia. I just wanted to pick up something lah from your saying kan. So narratifnya, the truth hurts. The truth hurts. I also want to add on to that lah. Yeah. One thing about the senior leadership ni biasanya is on the silent generation. So we say silent generation because that's what they are. They don't really talk much, but their power is pretty much big. And universities report to the board, is that right? And the board also most likely consists of the silent generation. So remember when I said, you know, our talent relies on three things: people, process, and system. If you have the right people, but you don't have the process and system agile enough to receive the new world, it's not going to happen as well. If you have the wrong people, but the right process and system, it's not going to happen as well. I think the challenge here is to find the sweet spot. And I think this is where all the research of the universities needs to come in. You have all the data, tapi masalahnya everybody is in denial. How's that?
I'm not a part of this conversation.
Yeah, I was listening to this and thinking, well, actually, Sunway is an almost 50 years organization. We are 47, 48 years this year. We're hitting 50 years as an organization. My chairman is 77. My group president is about 70. I think also 70 plus. So probably the situation that you are seeing versus where we are in corporate may not be very far apart. We also see, you know, people who have pioneered the business, grew the business together, and today they are still within the organization. And this is a very constant debate, I think, in most organizations. But I think what we also need to recognize here is there are moments where it is not really age. When they hit that age, there are still some value we want in them. There are still some contribution they actually could contribute to the organization. So in fact, when I look at this, the competency-based approach works even better when we have situations like that, because then we know who are those who may pass retirement age, but we should still have around, and who are those that possibly could retire because you can now see the competency better. Is an approach that we can study the competency better. And even then, in today, I would say we are an organization of many generations. You know, we have as young as the early 20s in the business. well, our dean of the Sunway University Business School is in his 30s. So we have young people in the management team, but that blend will be important. And that is where we pull in the competency base to show that, yeah, these are people who may have reached a certain age, but we still want in the organization, because if you look at the competencies, these are the competencies that we still want within the organization. So it is a bit of a double-edged sword, but something good for us to practice.
I mean, from Talent Corp perspective, I just want to highlight about maybe how we are seeing this is because the structure of our organization, because it's pyramid structure, right? So that because it's very rigid structure. So because of that, we are seeing that the younger talent are not given opportunity to rise to the top, because that's how we are structured. I mean, in our context, that's how we are structured. But from a macro perspective, because by 2030, we are heading to an aging nation. We are heading to an aging nation. I mean, it's not that far. We are just like 8 years away from an aging nation. So means that even we need to celebrate senior hire or senior talent. But because the structure is positioned in such a way, we are seeing, I mean, like apa yang tadi Cik Rafizi cakap tadi lah. I mean, that's how actually it's shaped because of the structure. But actually, if we make the structure more fluid and flexible, flatten it, so we might see it from different angle.
Yeah.
We might see it from different angle, mean that everyone has a space actually to become the leader in their own space. So I think that is something that institutions need to look into, because that's also something that we have observed. I mean, the comparison between the private universities, private institution versus public universities, because we are tied to Warren Perjawatan, correct? Public university, we are tied to Warren Perjawatan. Because of that, the rigidity of the structure is there. So we are not as fluid as the private university because of that. So that's something that we need to look into if we want to attract more and talented young talent into the organization. So it is something that, I mean, it will take long time. It's structural. But there's something that for us actually to ponder and think about. Because without recognizing the role of our senior talent, then by the year 2030, we are going to have shortage of talent, because everyone is going out. And our life expectancy rate, I mean, 1970s, we are at 63 years old. 1970s. Now we stand at about 75 years old. So if you stop at 60, means that we already have 15 years, maybe productive, provided we are healthy, inshallah. So that's something that we need to look into. But I would say that, yang Cik Rafizi cakap tadi, I agree, if we are discussing it from the context of our current structure. But it could be an opportunity if we shift the structure. Yep, thanks.
I just add on a little here, because that strikes something through my mind. Because in Sunway, when we initially started seeing patterns like this, that was actually how the idea of the iLabs and the ventures came into the picture. Because we say, we are a large listed entity today, and large listed entity, we are probably less willing to take risks, because we have a lot of, also shareholders asking us, what if you fail? Are you too big to fail at this point? So we then say, we can do startups. And in these startups, if we feel that these young talents can champion something, this becomes a separate entity that we let these young talents drive. And as a result, they have more empowerment, more autonomy to drive this small unit themselves. Now, from an education perspective, from an academic institution's perspective, I'm wondering whether is there other possibilities where there are some subject matter or some expertise domain that it makes more sense for probably then this group, this is the ones that the younger generation champions, because this subject matter or this domain of knowledge only existed in the last 10, 20 years. It never existed before. Then you have a separate pool of, these are the ones that young talents can champion more, whereas we still have some domain of knowledge that, the ones who has been there, we also want a level of stability to make sure this knowledge is kept within the organization, and that helps to keep that balance. And one other areas I kept thinking about is, today we talk about public universities, and we say we have been having this perspective as if public universities are at a disadvantage, but I somehow felt that public university is at an advantage because of the level of facilities that we have here. And I start comparing to, let's say, American universities, that they have professors that come around speaking about a domain of their knowledge, and wondering, actually in Malaysia, we do have a lot of very good papers published, good professors as well. Maybe it's time for us to create platform for it not to be only published, we don't read that much, but for it to be spoken. And if we talk about the TikTok generation, the YouTube generation, for it to be spoken via the social media, so that the public can see that this is the knowledge domain within the university, and this is what public can learn more knowledge. And this is probably the kind of projects that we can get the next generation to help champion, because that's their expertise in a way.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, one last question. Yeah. One last question.
I don't want to take too much of time. Actually, I've got about 10 questions here, but I only ask you
no.
one. Okay. Now, my experience through HR with the new generation, and we are handling 4 different generations of people, from baby boomers to X and Y and Z. Now, compared to years ago, when we had parents and we were disciplined, we don't ask much. If anything goes wrong, the hand goes first. Now, I think to have come to a stage now, children are more pampered now. They get to get things their way, and they're calling their parents by first name. We're suddenly following the West. So I see that happening. Now, my question is, are we compromising values, the basic values that build cultures? Organizations or big establishments, or rather big countries, on values that build the country. Now, are we eroding that by compromising with the Gen Z? There's so much of emphasis on Gen Z. Well and good. You need them into the organization. We need them to work. What about values when they're on Gen Z? They become older afterward. What's going to happen to the further generation? So, are values being eroded here? That's my question.
Mr. Simon, I love that question. When we talk about values and belief, I think that's the baseline for everything. So I read about this case of a young person who went for an interview. And this young person was facing this interviewer. And this interviewer asked this young lady by asking this question: if you were to be asked to do something against your values and belief, would you stay for the salary? And you know what she said? She said, my parents taught me to be honest, to be kind, to have high integrity, to be respectful, to be empathetic. If your organization do not possess any of this, then you're not worth my time. I hope I'm making sense. I think the baseline here doesn't matter whether we're in organization or universities. Values and belief sets the boundary of purpose. And being, I deal with C-suites most of the time. I'm a career coach to the C-suites. But I also do this for mid-level, right? And why people sustain in an organization, number one, of course, the purpose, the big purpose is no longer just about goals, because that's just box ticking exercise. The bigger purpose, but values and belief needs to be aligned. So it doesn't matter your silent generation or whatever generation. I think once we have the baseline, I think we can start talking.
Can I just go one step further? Because I think the public universities stand out in that sense. They still have their class mengaji, and so those values are perfect compared to the private university. No offense, Clayton, I come from Sunway. Okay, so that's the thing that can make a difference. That's the thing I believe will teach this. As you said, this girl said, I have values. Now, I also noticed the trend over the years. Young people would like to come into companies which are doing a lot of CSR. So when you ask them why, oh, if the employer can take care of the animals and the old people, he will take care of me. So that's one value that I see during our HR awards when we did. They were able to attract young people because of the good work they are doing. So those values and those things stick out, and I think the public universities are doing it pretty well. So, all right, so that's my question. Thank you.
Just to touch a bit on culture and values that we mentioned just now, because when I hear about values, I think values, will it change? I think that question, it is important for us to differentiate values and culture. Values doesn't change. Culture is the one that shifts over time. So in Sunway, we say our values over the years, humility, integrity, and excellence doesn't change. But because the people who are coming, their style of working has started changing, and therefore the culture will shift along the way. I give a very simple example about how values stay constant where culture change. Let's say value of respect. Now, to the silent generation, respect means when you say something to me, even if I don't agree, I keep quiet because I respect you. To the newer generation, respect means if you say something that I don't agree, as a form of respect, I shouldn't go back behind your back and talk about it. I should say it in front of you. So that is where the culture of how we position the value have changed, but the value didn't.
That's really, really important to align. Ladies and gentlemen, hadirin hadirat yang saya hormati sekalian, saya rasa sampai situ saja masa yang kita ada. I hope that this session opens a few ideas in terms of Generation Z, what they are and how would they be in terms of them being in the institution. Thank you so much for panels. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much. So dengan itu saya tangguhkan dulu majlis ini dan saya serahkan kepada pengurusi majlis, pengacara majlis. Silakan.
Terima kasih Profesor Madya, Dr. Nur Azharuddin Shah Abdullah. Alhamdulillah, satu sesi yang penuh dengan pengisian. Kalau kita lihat kembali apa yang telah dikupas oleh para panel yang duduk di atas pentas, kita boleh katakan mereka telah mengambil kira, dan hadirin hadirat tuan-tuan puan-puan sekalian perlu mengambil kira nilai-nilai Gen Z yang menganggap farming, data analitik, gaming, TikTok, universal values adalah sesuatu yang sangat seksi. Ya, dan juga mereka juga mengupas bagaimana Gen Z akan memasuki bidang pekerjaan dan bagaimana tuan-tuan di bahagian pihak pengurusan bakat perlu melihat apa yang perlu dilakukan untuk mengurus generasi Z dari segi bidang kerja dan untuk kejayaan di institusi masing-masing. Pihak penganjur Kolokium AKAP 2022 @Meliora ingin mengucapkan jutaan terima kasih kepada para panel, iaitu Puan Hani Razaif Bolender, Tuan Clayton Tan dan juga Tuan Nazrul Aziz kerana sudi bersama kita pada hari ini. Ya, jadi saya ingin menjemput Tuan Husaini Amir Azizan, iaitu pengarah bahagian standard swasta Kementerian Pengajian Tinggi untuk naik ke pentas dan menyampaikan cenderahati. Dipersilakan. Tuan Husaini akan menyampaikan cenderahati bermula dengan Tuan Clayton Tan, Pengurus Besar kanan Ketua Pembangunan Organisasi Sunway Group. Diikuti dengan Tuan Nazrul Aziz, Timbalan Presiden Diaspora Graduate dan Perkongsian Industri Talent Corp. Dan Puan Hani Razai Bolanda, Pengasas Bersama Dragonfire Corporation Solutions Sdn Berhad. Dan untuk moderator majlis, kita berikan tepukan yang gemuruh untuk beliau. Terima kasih kepada Tuan Husaini Amir dan saya menjemput Tuan Husaini Amir bersama-sama pihak panel untuk turun ke bawah pentas bagi sesi penutup. Baiklah hadirin hadirat dan tuan-tuan puan sekalian, masa menunjukkan jam 5.06 petang. Saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada semua kerana masih lagi bersemangat dan kekal berada di dalam Dewan. So berikan tepukan yang gemuruh untuk diri sendiri. Ya, sebab menahan sejuk dalam Dewan ni. Lepas tu mendengar lagi. Jadi tepukan untuk anda semua. Diharapkan segala perkongsian dapat dimanfaatkan untuk inovasi masa akan datang. Izinkan saya berpantun sedikit. Proses inovasi meliputi semua sektor awam, swasta, masyarakat bandar dan desa. Semua aspek sosial ekonomi dan tenaga kerja tidak terhad kepada sains dan teknologi semata. Ekosistem inovasi perlu dibina berasaskan kepelbagaian, kecekapan dan perubahan minda, kesediaan menerima idea dan reka cipta, pengurusan bakat ditingkat dan nilai baru dijana. Buah cemara jatuh berderai di atas para. Hasrat hati tak mahu bercerai, namun kita di hujung acara. Pergi ke dusun menjolok kelapa, kelapa muda, kelapa bali. Jari disusun, maaf dipinta, panjang usia bertemu kembali. Terima kasih sekali lagi. Saya ingin rakamkan bagi pihak AKAP, KPT dan juga Universiti Malaysia Sabah kepada semua yang terlibat, kepada penyampai, penceramah, ahli panel serta hadirin dan hadirat sekalian. Minum petang ada disediakan di luar, tetapi bagi sesiapa yang dah minum, tak apalah. Ya. Sila keluar dan menjamu selera dan saya tangguhkan dahulu kolokium AKAP 2022 at Melora untuk disambung pada hari esok bermula pada jam 8.30 pagi. Bagi hadirin dan hadirat sekalian yang terlibat dalam proses pitching esok pagi, latihan boleh diadakan selepas ini. Dan pastikan anda semua bersedia dengan bersemangatnya untuk membentangkan presentation masing-masing. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera serta selamat beristirahat semua.